Welcome, Red Spotters. Another audio commentary here. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, and I'm joined by both Alexis and David Moreno. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
That's wonderful. Go listen to our Infinity War commentary before this one. I mean, if you'd like, but I thought that was a good discussion. And of course, we're doing commentaries on movies that we just feel like it, and some of these happen to be our favorite ones. So we're back here. We're doing Endgame. I'm sure you can tell in a much better quality of, a much better caliber of audio than the last was. Wasn't my fault that it was like that, but you know, things happen, mistakes happen. So, but thankfully we're rectifying those mistakes with much better panelists. Moreno. So here we are with Endgame, which is, again, like the last commentary we had said that it was incredible to think that it was almost 2 entire years since Infinity War came out. Well, it's almost a year since this movie came out. Just about a month away. And that's insane. To think that that's what it was. And of course, be prepared for a lot of mentions to the the official commentary by the Russos and Chris Marcus and McFeely about all fascinating details about how the movie was made and what scenes were in here and that there. But as we'll see throughout the movie, and I'm sure as you guys will pick up on, it is so eerie to think about how a lot of the images that we see in the 5 years after Thanos' snap are kind of becoming reality. With everybody in self-isolation and social distancing. Yeah.
Yeah.
How you guys holding up?
It's gonna be interesting to watch this movie going through what we're going through right now.
Yeah. Quick, so this song that's playing right now is Dear Mr. Fantasy by Traffic, and if the particular lyric that you can hear as it's going over the logo is like, Dear Mr. Fantasy, play us a tune, something that'll make us all happy, which is what people go to Marvel movies for. That was intentional by that. And if you noticed, one of the big tidbits that you saw right there is that there are all of the Avengers that you saw on the logo, the opening fanfare, were ones that ended up being luckily spared by the snap. And those who were snapped away, like Doctor Strange, for example, or Black Panther, they were not in that opening. So, yeah, we're already going there. And then, of course, we have Tony and Nebula right here. Guys, give us some thoughts. How did you guys feel when, as like the rush of, okay, this is the official beginning of the movie, here we go?
I love this scene because, well, how long was that? Like a minute? Maybe 2 minutes less?
Mm-hmm.
And you just get an entire turn from Nebula for being like, I mean, she's still like this, like, tough person and all that, but like you see little moments, just kind of her like blocking down the wall that she has for Tony.
Right.
And that, to me, that's really like the most important part for like that scene, particularly, especially because you'll see some sequences here in a bit, but her, you know, playing a game, competing with someone, unlike with Gamora, where she had to like lose a body part just for losing. And this one's just like a simple game. She's having fun for once, and you actually see like a little smile when they were playing that game. And again, like it's just a complete turn for her
because she wins, right? This is the first time she wins anything, and you see the reaction on her.
It's the fastest.
Again, talking about Nebula.
Yeah, it's the fastest character development that I've ever seen, really. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, right here again, like they're working together, they're teaming up. I kind of wish she was more in this movie, but I mean, it was fine in the end.
You mean like the good Nebula, not the bad one?
Good Nebula. Oh yeah, good Nebula.
Good Nebula. Well, yeah.
Like right here, the scene right there. I honestly would not see Gamora doing something like that. And the fact that she did, well, I mean, she's a robot, so she probably doesn't have to eat that much, but still, I think just her doing that one act of kindness, it really shows just how much she grew, for me at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this entire sequence right here is, it does a lot of things. And mind you, a lot of the info I got from the commentary, a couple of the things is you're seeing here, basically how Tony recorded his eventual eulogy and how they were able to find it after he passed on. And then, of course, he's entirely convinced that he's about to die right now. And this is his final goodbye to Pepper, which in some way I feel is also appropriate that we got to see a version of that because he does leave Pepper in the end. So this is also a great device, to have a resolution to that. And him basically like saying his goodbyes, and here he basically lets go. Because this is over. This is 22 days after Infinity War. They've been adrift, as the narration has been telling you. And I just love, again, the score, the music that is in this particular part. And I'm not sure, when I spoke with this about this particular moment with David, I think it was months ago, it didn't even occur to him, and maybe not to most of everyone out there, but this particular hymn that we're listening to right now is the exact music that is playing during Tony's funeral. So in many ways, it is, the movie is telling you this is what's going to happen. Yeah. And it also helps that it's a great piece of music to do
like
that.
I said in Infinity War, the music works with the story.
Yeah.
It's not working for specific scenes.
Yeah. We should mention, so we opened the movie with Hawkeye, and with his family losing, and did you guys know that at one point that was supposed to be an Infinity War?
I heard that, yeah, and I'm glad they left it off here just because, I think the after credits for Infinity War, it just showed just the dangers that the world's gonna get in after the snap.
It reaffirmed that it was happening everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with Hawkeye though, it was to reaffirm that this thing still happened, and that's kind of showing us the emotional aspect, the emotional hit people are going to get.
He is he and his family are kind of like the crux in a sense for and it pays off toward the end where we see Linda Cardellini, his wife, on the phone when they've all been snapped back. But at one this was at one point, the opening scene of this movie was going to be at the very end of Infinity War, but it just didn't work because that was just, it would have been too random. We hadn't seen Clint in the entire film, and then we just cut to him on the farm, and it's that might have just been overkill because we got what we needed to get, the feeling anyway, with what we already saw. And it was much better for the beginning of this movie to remind you guys, hey, we're back, we're right back into it, and this is how we start off. Also, the tag at the end of Captain Marvel, which at some point I think we're going to do a commentary on, but the tag on Captain Marvel, for those that didn't see Captain Marvel, it shows basically Carol Danvers arriving on Earth and meeting the Avengers because they found Nick Fury's device to call her. And so, by the way, this is just so emotional here. I remember it's just oh God, here. I was expecting some kind of a blow up here, but I mean, it happens later, but not here. And then his face when he says he lost the kid just breaks your fucking heart. And then, of course, Gwyneth Paltrow collecting a paycheck, but doing it well. But she's great. She's always been great. She's an amazing actor. But yeah, so for those, there were, I guess, questions going on about it, but there was a homing beacon. Remember, Rocket was with them, so Rocket would, this is heartwarming, but also bittersweet. So the Milano did have, the Benatar did have that's the name of the ship, and it keeps changing for whatever reason. It had a homing beacon, and since Rocket was the only remaining Guardian basically alive, he, I think, found the homing beacon, and then they sent Carol to go get the ship. And then she brought him home. And we saw the first moment with Steve Rogers that he was shaving his beard, because in the tag for Captain Marvel, he still had it. So I'm sure there were people who were crying when they saw that razor. And of course, we should mention the VFX never fails here, especially with the disheveled Tony Stark here.
Yeah.
Survived the planet hit, though. Positives.
This moment was so rewarding. I know one of the words that David used in the commentary for Infinity War, but for longtime fans. But this is why Civil War did matter. And this blow up, I remember you could hear a pin drop in the theater. And like you can tell everybody just like, I felt that. And you feel it here.
This is how you know the beginning's like really good, just because we don't want to.
We don't want to talk over the movie. We want to watch the movie. That's how hard it is, right? Like we want to keep listening to this, but it's like, God, I know that happens a lot. Just, but it also. Go ahead, David.
Tony's Robert Downey Jr.'s acting is just like perfect right from the beginning. Right?
Yeah.
It's just like how many emotions did he go through? Like he was sad, he accepted death, and now then he had like a moment of peace, and then now he's angry. Furious, really. And then right here,
this is wild.
Yeah. I think it's also just, no pun intended, a stark difference, because in Infinity War, part of him had cooled off slightly, and maybe he wouldn't have had a big of a blow up if what happened in Infinity War didn't happen, right? But it did happen, and then Cap wasn't there. And to me, I think this is a perfect continuation of what was, left not resolved at the end of Civil War. And it's like, Cap here, he's sympathetic, but it's like, when he throws it back, well, that didn't work out, did it? When he said we needed a suit around the world. Yes, Tony was right that we needed something to protect ourselves. But Cap was like, but what you were suggesting, it didn't work, did it? And it resulted in people dying. So it's like, it's not as if, again, they move this debate back a little bit between these two, but it's not necessarily like one person's entirely wrong or right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I personally love here. Because you understand them both.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, don't let me interrupt you. Continue. You interrupt me.
No. No, I like that they did that like the conflict in Civil War still continues onto this one, and you still are like, there's nothing you could have done. Like, that's the ultimate thing. Like, either or, this still would have happened.
Because of what happened in Civil War, which ultimately solidifies why that mattered and why that rift ultimately is the reason why everybody lost.
Yeah.
A lot of people hated that line.
For many different reasons.
Yeah.
The hate that character gets.
Oh my god. It's so not fair.
It's ridiculous. It's not fair to her.
Yeah.
The actress in particular, but even the character, it just isn't fair. But because but like from a character perspective, she's fucking Superman, of course. Yeah. If she were around, I'm probably sure that there would have also been, she would have come in handy, right? You had fucking Superman around.
She's like Superman, but with Batman's attitude.
Basically.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. And of course, somebody needs to keep track of all the damn callbacks here. Of course, Cap is now proudly cussing.
Yes.
It's just something he was getting used to when he got out of the ice. so much happens here that I want to like just geek out about this right here. Like, just it's fun seeing the Avengers go to space for the first time, right? But like having Steve Rogers, the guy that was from the damn 40s, go out into space. We're going to see a shot right here of his eyes as he just jumps into hyperspace right there. And that's it. Like, look how his eyes just widen, just how beautiful that was. Just, it gives me chills.
It's exactly like Rockets.
Exactly.
With Nidavellir. It's like he's seen space, but he's never seen that before, a star.
Right.
And then he's seeing space for the first time. Oh, so good.
To me, and it reminds you a theme that the Russos keep saying in these commentaries, the distance traveled from these characters. Like, this is a guy who was born in who was not born, but he was from the 40s. And here he is at the other end of the universe. It was a magical moment to see, and that shot it might be my favorite shot in the movie, but there are other great shots here too. And here's your reminder that Captain Marvel can breathe in space.
Yeah.
If that wasn't already obvious. And I love.
I'm curious how though.
I don't.
Well, like how I said in the other one, the power of the stone or whatever, it's on the outside of her, so it protects her.
So, like, her power was given by the Tesseract, which is the Space Stone. So I guess that could, so her powers, I guess, would imply being able to travel. I mean, she doesn't have the literal power of the Space Stone, but again, it's not an exact science, is it? How that happened. Here we have Farmer Thanos. People were literally laughing when this scene, like, oh my god. Like, and I was thinking to myself, like, was he this badly injured in Infinity War when I first saw the movie? But then he reveals that he had hurt himself even more because he used the stones again to destroy the stones. Did you guys see this twist coming, by the way, this early in the movie?
Oh, hell no. I thought of a storyline that they were going to attack him, they would lose, and then I don't know what the heck would happen next, but obviously they would want to attack him again, or maybe he'll like convince them to like submit to his power or something like that, and then like the years would pass by and they'll slowly start to rise up against him again.
Right.
And what I thought when people were complaining about Captain Marvel, that, oh, she's going to beat Thanos, she's going to save the day and bring everyone back. Like, she was going to be the hero of the story, which, no, people.
That
Jesus
story
Christ.
writes itself in 5 seconds. Because that's how long it would be. Really.
Yeah, like, I knew that wasn't going to happen because there's no way. And what I thought was going to happen was that they were going to do the time travel thing again, but they were going to use Captain Marvel to distract him. Because if Juan was there, maybe he can come up with a rule that's saying like, oh, but he has a time stone. It'll tell him if time's being rewritten. And so Captain Marvel will be able to distract him while they start getting all the stones back, and he'll slowly start disappearing from them.
That would have been interesting. Yeah,
that would have been interesting, but no, they completely just went for a different direction here.
Love that Cap is wearing his Winter Soldier suit. He has a greatest hits basically in this movie with the different suits that he wears. This moment when, of course, everyone laughed at, like, I went for the head, he's about to kill Thanos here, Thor. It's a good payoff. But one of the things that you and I discussed, David, was look, the blood on Nebula was a nice touch. But I mean, she basically goes and closes her father's eye. Like, this is a guy that abused her, doesn't give a shit about her, and yet look at how she basically just in some way, like, I guess, pays her respects or just like puts him to rest. I don't know. I mean, that just shows you the trauma, the effect of, abused people. Like, she's still a part of her sad that he just got killed off, even though she hates him.
Thor. I love him in this scene. He's just so like sad. I mean, he's sad throughout the whole movie, but like this scene right here is just like, he's done.
You see the part where he's broken, basically.
Yeah, and this will be depressing to see because it's happening right now, in real life. But earlier you saw a lot of different reactions that'll basically set off the characters on their journey. I mean, the two big ones that go on a big arc in this movie is, of course, Steve and Natasha. Especially if you go back, Natasha's literally breaking down in tears, which should signal the road that she's about to go on in this movie. Which we should mention is highly contested among society, and especially on this network, which we'll get to when that happens. Yeah. Oh God, it just like, is anybody having like a surreal moment here? Like this could easily be like a post-coronavirus, like a focus group or something, or like a support group. Jesus. Oh, boy.
So that's right there. That's the director.
Mm-hmm. That is Joe Russo.
And then the guy that asked the question, the bald head guy, he was a writer, right? Isn't he?
I think he was the creator. He created the character Thanos in the comics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was the writer of the Infinity.
It might be. He might also be that.
Yeah, I can't remember.
God, this scene, every single time.
And that's the moment you realize that they completely threw away the, what's her name? Sharon Carter story.
Yeah, I mean, she was thrown away about a movie ago. It's fine.
Was she snapped?
Who cares? I don't know.
I know, she didn't even show up at the end. Wow, that's rude.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just I think to me, one of my favorite moments of Steve in the movie right there. Like, I mean, when he says, I'm at the love of my life in 45 and winning the ice. And like, you just see the damn pain of regret, right, on his face. And then he's trying to convince these people that we got to move on. We got to live. And then when he says we got to move on, you see that little, movement in his eye where he's like, he can't even convince himself to move on. Just wonderful, wonderful moment there by Chris Evans. And of course, here we have the rat that saved all of existence. The Chris Marcus and Steve McFeely, who wrote this movie and many of the others that we've discussed in the Marvel Universe, they were quoted famously in the commentary track for this movie as saying that if we have a coincidence, you're only allowed coincidences in the first act of the movie. And I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, but it's crazy and it's hilarious and also great to think that a rat, set off the chain of events that would eventually save the universe. And here's, go ahead, David.
Well, I kind of like to think that's why Doctor Strange stuck to that plan in particular, for when he looked at the 1 million possibilities, because he had to time it right so that he can go into the time machine,
right,
basically
right. The quantum realm,
but also had set off the chain of events within maybe Tony and maybe some of the other characters,
right?
So that the rat, I mean, I don't know, it's still ginormous coincidence, but who knows, maybe setting off the chain of events the way he did it caused the rat to be there.
I think, to be more specific though, Doctor Strange just say, toward the end of the movie, because Tony straight up asks, you said 1 out of whatever 14 billion we win, right? And then if I tell you what happens, it won't happen. So he ultimately knows, I feel, that when he does give the stone to Thanos in Infinity War, he's all but sacrificing Tony. If you think about it, because he knows that Tony has to die.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He has to sacrifice himself to ensure that Thanos loses in the end. So when Doctor Strange said, I won't hesitate to sacrifice your life to protect the stone, he was basically still doing that, even though it didn't appear like that in the last movie. the Russos and Marcus and McFeely talk about this moment coming up here where Scott sees his daughter. They say that it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. Every time they see this moment, they cry. And like don't really care about the Ant-Man movies in general, but I really, really got emotional during this scene. Like the little girl, Cassie, and look, he missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes me more sad though was how she possibly lived her life. Like her mom must have been gone. She must have been alone.
She
like,
probably
who
is
stay
alone.
With?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really hope if they make an Ant-Man 3, like they really
explain.
They focus on her a lot. Like maybe he's trying to be the dad, but she survived on her own for a long time, so she kind of doesn't need him. She wants to do the superhero
Just
stuff.
Look at the acting on his face. Look at that. Look, he's just processing what's happened. And he's like smiling and crying at the same time. And of course the music. Look at that.
It's such a Ant-Man line.
Oh boy. And let me cut back here to the famous peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm glad they brought back the red hair. I mean, I needed that back.
Do you think holograms improved? I just noticed that because like the holograms in Infinity War,
they weren't that great.
No, I mean not in terms of CGI, but like just kind of like you know how technology advanced probably in 5 years, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. There's color now.
I'm sure he was probably bluer in Infinity War.
So this here is shown that in the 5 years' time, Natasha is basically taken over. And she's made this her life, essentially. And weirdly enough, this is... well, I mean, not weirdly enough. I mean, she's always basically made this her life, and this is why it matters so much for her. A lot of the stuff that, will end her character is established right here more so in this scene. First of all, I think it's a great scene for Scarlett Johansson. I think we do take her for granted a lot of the times. And honestly, I feel like the character of Black Widow in the MCU, to me, has just not been appreciated by certain people and certain fans, given that she's had a great, I think, successive arc throughout all of these movies that I think is beautifully ended here. Again, there's many disagreements about that, it seems like. But what's also, established is Barton and him becoming Ronin and not wanting to go near that all these years because of the pain, only the further pain of a fractured family that she's lost. And she's basically, what we're seeing here, at a breaking point. And of course, who else but Steve can come and help her? When he says to her, I think you need to get a life. I mean, that's basically a role reversal, isn't it? From when they first made a true connection back in Winter Soldier. It kind of just reminds you of their dynamic and the road that both those characters have traveled to this point.
This part. Jokes.
Jokes. Yeah, oh gosh.
Oh, man. Dude, it's so... Like, it's not funny. Like, it's kind of scary, but, like, what?
The parts that in some countries, in some places that are highly populated, as we're recording this commentary track, there are people who are in high volume of self-isolation, stay-at-home orders. Weirdly and scarily enough, nature seems to be reclaiming that territory, with human beings just being forced to stay in their houses. And what Steve just said about whales, swimming in the Hudson, we all know the stories of dolphins swimming in Venice now, apparently, because the water's cleaner because there are no tourists.
Yep.
God, yeah, crazy.
There was this picture that I saw, and it was like a drawing, and it was the planet Earth in like a like a hospital while all the other planets are looking out the window telling Earth to get better soon.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what's happening right now. That's crazy. It's like Earth is healing.
Yeah. This commentary might be more depressing than previously anticipated.
I'm sure you'll get there.
You first. God, I love these two.
All right.
Anything with these two, I'm up for it. And here we have some hope.
Yes. So yeah, we weren't talking just because
Yeah,
it's an important moment. It's
right,
a big moment for even these characters. Just kind of like, you know, they have a change in attitude already.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind, if Scott looks a bit tired, not just, yes, he was 5 years, but for him it was like 5 hours in the quantum realm. But remember, he lives in San Francisco, and he basically drove from San Francisco to New York. I don't know if that's come across your minds, but like that's basically the end of that trip, what we're seeing right now. And this entire,
He has to describe quantum physics, and when he has no idea, like, where to begin on it. And it's funny.
Yeah. That's one of the things, this whole notion of using time travel in the quantum realm. I think it was birthed out of a writing block issue. And this is what I learned from hearing the writers talk about this. They were having a hard time figuring out what this movie was going to be and what they were going to do with Thanos, because they could not figure out a way how it was that Thanos could even like come close to matching what he was and what his story was going to be, basically, right? Because his story was over. He won. And they were having a hard time figuring out, okay, how are we going to fill this long ass movie when Thanos has basically already completed what's going to happen? Like, we can't have Endgame be Infinity War like Redux. We can't just have like 2-3 hours of the Avengers punching Thanos, like, because we all and remember, that's how the movie tricks you into thinking it's going to be when it begins. Like, okay, because the score and then the Avengers Endgame suite, and then let's go get the son of a bitch. Like, you're under the like this pent up hype, basically, that this movie is going to be like Infinity War, even more like quick than it was, and that just wasn't working because that's what Infinity War already was. So at one point somebody said, well, I wish we could just kill him. And then it was like a light bulb went off in the room when they were writing this movie, like, yeah, let's kill him. And then like when they did that, they really fleshed out what it could be. And then this quantum realm and the potential use of time travel came out as a really fun way, because like the time travel component is the second act of the film. It is the second hour. And I know that there's been debate among certain people in our group if that is quote unquote boring, which I find, disgusting, because I don't think it was at all. But as we will see in the second act, it was, we got some fun moments, for like a series finale-esque movie to this long-running series, right? To go back and see our earlier versions of these characters. But mainly it was for character development for all of them, and we'll get to that when we get there. But to where we are at right now, wasn't it just everything to see Tony as a father?
Oh
Mhm.
my god. Yes.
It's sad that we didn't get to see more of that.
Yeah.
But the parts that we did get were one of the best parts in the movie.
Mhm. No, I mean, there's a bunch of storylines that they could have gone. I'm sure we all would have loved it, but I think
They could have made a Disney Plus show about that to show them.
Disney Plus
I
show
think
about
that
everything.
that I agree with some people when they say like that the movie was kind of all over the place and the time travel was kind of lazy, but it could have easily been like it could have easily gone wrong. But the thing that they thought about and the thing that saved them was that everything is still gonna happen. These people are still gonna basically die, like the people that have died. Everything is gonna stay the same. It's just we're removing these things from these time periods but putting them right back. Or like for 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. That's when we had all suspected that time travel was going to be a big part of this movie months before it came out. But none of us thought that, even when we were watching this in real time, that they were going to keep the 5 years. Like, I thought, like, oh, we're just going to go back to 2000, whatever the year it was that the snap happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
this was all going to be erased, like it never even happened.
Mhm.
Which, at that point, yes, that's lazy. But what I thought was a cool twist, as what you just said, is, well, what if we keep them the post 5 years?
Yeah. Because if they would have changed that, then all of this would have been pointless.
It would have felt like nothing. Like, what's the point of
Yeah.
watching this? Why get invested in the relationship between Tony and
Yes.
his daughter if she was just never going to exist?
Yeah, it's kind of like the dream sequence where the cheap shot is like have the main character waking up and it was all a dream.
Mhm.
I think, didn't the Twilight movies end like that? Because Kyle told me, Kyle told me that Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2, because he apparently watched those movies, that's how it ended.
No, it was never a dream.
No, it was one of the vampires is able to see into the future. And so
Uh-huh.
you have this long battle sequence where every character is dying and all that. But really, it was just a vision that someone saw.
But isn't that the same effect?
No, because it kind of paid off in the end. Like,
Yeah.
basically they were about to have this big battle, and then the person who can see into the future went up to the main bad guy and was like, this is what's gonna happen if what you're about to do, you're gonna actually do it. Basically, her being like, you're going to die, so just leave.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole component, by the way, real quick, these kids are all Russos. So
Yeah.
one of the things that you'll note that they'll tell you in the commentary, the concept of time travel in general, it's had its day. And I still think it's pretty incredible how they used what you would think of as a tired trope like time travel, and they made it work so well in this movie. Because yeah, I mean, I remember what was that? I was in the theater. I was watching Toy Story 4 with my brother, and there was this one part in the RV where Rex is like suggesting that we can go back in time and warn Woody about the future. Again, it was like a Back to the Future reference, but it was just like, it made everybody laugh because like, oh yeah, Endgame just happened, and you know, time travel and all that crap. That was hilarious. Yeah. So here,
We just missed Professor Hulk for saying him for the first time.
we can get back to him in the next sequence. I want to talk about Tony here real quick, because Tony is about to see his dead son, basically, right? Well, I think that's his father, and then he sees Peter right there, and ultimately that's what gets him to try it out and see if he can fix this issue. And I mean, if there is a chance, it would be for him.
Yeah,
he that was his first child in a sense, and he's not going to get over that until he brings him back, if there was a chance.
This scene right here is my one and only complaint about the movie. I think I had another.
Oh, because he just quickly solves it.
Yeah, like he says, like, "Oh, let's try something. I've been inspired," and I'm kind of like, "What's the inspiration?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, if like, just a little explanation. I heard one rumor that he saw the picture with him and Peter, and how how Peter's holding like a certificate or something.
Right.
He's holding it upside down. Like apparently that's how he got the inspiration to like make it inversion. See a picture upside down, but seeing another picture, like the right side up.
Right. Again, that falls into the category of nitpicks, right? But to address, that issue, from what I heard, when the directors were discussing this moment about, Tony was just easily able to like figure it out. Well, the Starks and the Pyms do have a long history with each other. Am I not right about that?
The Starks and the who?
And the Pyms. Hank Pym. And,
Pym.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, so they've had a relationship, if not a rivalry of sorts, for quite many decades at this point, from both Tony's father and, of course, Hank Pym. Tony he's a rocket scientist. I think the explanation was that, this is obviously a notion or a theory that's been thrown around that he would obviously know about, and that's why he dismissed it out of hand when they went to him. When what's his name? Ant-Man was trying to explain to Tony about like what we could use the quantum realm, and Tony was like, "Well, that's just not how it works," and and he just basically, all it took was the smartest person left alive to just like tweak a little bit, and like there it was. And then theoretically, for the movie to work, we don't really need like a long explanation for why it was. The movie has to keep moving, and it's 3 hours long at this point. So
no, I also thought of it as, it probably took him 5 years. It took him 5 years to figure this out, because if he had done it sooner, he would have gone right away. If he like already had it figured out year after Captain America and went up to them, I don't think that would have been very much like Tony's character, to just like not try it out at all,
Right. So this moment right here, we have one of the last moments with these two, which is heartbreaking, obviously, but to me, it was a great moment for Pepper, because when she says right here, "Look, one of the greatest failures of my life is trying to get you to stop," and like Tony needs permission from Pepper to save the universe, because he doesn't want to hurt her. He doesn't want to lose her. And Pepper realizing like he won't be able to rest if he doesn't do this, gives him the go-ahead after years and years and years of begging him to quit. Pepper's come around, and she's the one that gives him the final push. Are you okay, Alexis?
No.
Oh.
I didn't even I did get that, but I never thought about it more than what it was.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because the next time those two have any words, then he dies, I think. He
did.
Yeah, he did. Professor Hulk is hilarious. Hilarious. Like, I wasn't sure at first how this new like Hulk character was gonna vibe. It is the mishmash. It is basically Mark Ruffalo, but because Hulk was fused with him, he's far more eccentric.
He just has more confidence, really.
Right. He has more confidence, but I think he's also much more, I guess, chillaxed is a better way of addressing it. And you also do notice, because later on in the movie we see that Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner was separated from the Hulk when they go back and see the Ancient One in the past. But if you notice, of course, Mark Ruffalo is doing a different voice when he's Professor Hulk versus when he's just Bruce Banner. So, yeah.
One of my favorite details in the movie is Natasha's hair.
How so?
Because I completely forgot that she was a redhead. And her
Really?
hair is like outgrown now. Yeah, I just forgot.
It's just a nice detail of showing the passage of time, and actually showing that 5 years had passed, and also just kind of like showing that she's just been focusing on the hero stuff so much that she hasn't bothered to dye her hair back to normal.
Yeah. Well, I think she is a natural redhead, right? The character Black Widow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that the suggestion there is that because she still has blonde highlights, basically, or I don't know what the term for that is.
She's just outgrown it, because in the other movie it was blonde, which I believe was to keep undercover.
Yeah.
yes, because they were on the run at that point from what's his name, General Ross. Yeah, and like her keeping that just tells you that she couldn't even be bothered to dye her hair.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how much of herself she's thrown into, this chance to get them back. And of course, a classic entrance here by Tony Stark. Cap a little annoyed here at this moment, but
He turned into a baby.
Honestly, I have to say, I really do like this resolution here between these two. And like at the end of the day, they realize you have to keep in mind also this, right? People say that this came too soon. This is the year 2023, right? The way that the movie takes place.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's 2023 at this point, because this is 5 years after 2018, 2018, because Infinity War was 2018. Civil War took place in 2016. So it's been 7 years, a full 7 years to get to this moment for these two to finally resolve their issues. And I think it says a lot about how much Tony has grown, where he was the one that apologized, basically, look, I don't want to be bitter, it's corrosive. And at the end of the day, look, the ultimate moment, it was going to end with Tony handing Cap the shield back with the original Captain America theme, again, a la Alan Silvestri, providing the score here. Yeah. It's a pretty big moment here. And the official end of Civil War, if
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, like I said too, they're both heroes. They're gonna try to compromise for the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
And when Cap in the end of Civil War says like, "If you ever need me, just call and I'll be there." It's just not just because he's a hero. It's just he's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
The serum made him double of who he is. And that's just what he will do.
But you do see the circumstances of which it took for them to get to a resolution, because even, let's say, if Cap had shown up, which he would have, in time for when the ship attacked New York in the beginning of Infinity War, Cap would have helped Tony, but they wouldn't have been okay.
Yeah.
They would
have gone their separate... If they would have saved the world in Infinity War, they would have gone their separate ways.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been resolved. Yeah.
Tony would have been like, you know what? Just forget the Accords. It wouldn't be like that.
I mean, they would have they still would have hated each other. I feel it seems like. Wonderful song here is Supersonic Rocket Ship, which is also an official Guardians canon theme song. And here we have the beginning of collecting. It's kind of like the first Avengers movie, right? We got to go back into, we got to pull the Avengers out of their own movies and bring them into the conflict. And here we have New Asgard, which, remember the first scene of the first Captain America movie where the Red Skull busts open this place and he finds the Tesseract? This is that town.
Yeah. Also, I like that detail, the trucks. Oh, well, I think we missed it. But when they first see them in the truck, there will be sparks coming out in the bottom because Hulk is like too heavy. So he's making the truck hit the floor.
I didn't realize that. No.
Yeah. Again, like they throw in some great... Oh my god, I screamed when I saw Valkyrie in this.
Shit.
Dude. Oh my god, I did not think she was going to be in this.
Why? Because you thought that she snapped away?
No, I just thought they would maybe forget about her because, again, they didn't really plan much for Thor Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
besides the beginning.
Well, I mean, considering where she ends up in the end, they did talk about her. They did. I mean, what she basically ends the movie being King of Asgard or Queen of Asgard, however she wants to call herself, whichever.
So Rocket, he has his costume from the comic, like the actual costume, the scarf, and all that. I think that was a cool detail.
This is my favorite Rocket costume. I don't know what's the style. I mean, what would you call it?
Rocket.
Is that a scarf he's wearing?
Yeah, it's a scarf and all that. Actually, all the costumes are like the best here. I love Cap's suit at the last battle. Rocket looks great. Hulk, I mean, I like that full body suit that he has. It's pretty cool.
Here's Bro Thor. People were losing their shit.
Yeah.
This shit happened right here.
I saw this with my dad, and he was just like, he was cracking up.
It's a great fat suit, though, too. I mean,
yeah, it like they could have easily just done like a visual effect, like how they how they thinned out Tony in the beginning of the movie. But this is a great prosthetic.
Yeah,
and it's massive. Yeah, like to me, like this is like, I think what they're like. I loved Thor with every successive movie. I thought they changed him for the better in Ragnarok, to where I officially liked him. Thought he was an amazing rock star, basically, in Infinity War. But then here, by the way, that was Stormbreaker, who's now been disposed as a bottle opener. You know, the weapon that was supposed to save the universe is now a bottle opener, which is hilarious.
The weapon that killed Thanos.
Basically. That almost killed Thanos, though. I mean, it impaled him. Oh, wait, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the movie, he was decapitated by a Stormbreaker. Yeah, that's where it is. I love Thor in this film. Again, one of the strategic moves in this movie was to focus on our original main Avengers, and I think to me, we do have some stuff with Clint and with Hulk for other reasons, but I think the main four, and to me, I think the four main characters up until this point of the MCU have been Steve, Tony, Natasha, and Thor, and they are the ones that get the big arcs in this movie. To the point where only one of them really makes it out alive.
Hawkeye?
No. I mentioned him too.
Yeah.
His whole thing is getting his family back, right? Yeah. But he's still necessarily. I mean, to me, the biggest arcs are those four, but then also Hawkeye and Hulk get a lot of stuff here too as well.
Well, I mean, I don't think Hulk goes through an arc really. He hardly goes through any arc on any of the movies. Yeah,
that's the thing though, right? It's like, I meant like Hulk has a story arc, but not necessarily a character arc. His character arc happened off screen. It's already done from this point, you know. And Clint is, you know, trying to redeem himself by saving his family. So to me, there is a distinction between necessarily a character arc in which a character changes from the beginning to the end of the movie, and a story arc where they just have an element that, you know, contributes to the plot and moves the plot forward. Which, yeah. I want pizza now. Let's call Kyle. Let me call him.
Dude, yes.
This scene right here, to people complaining about this movie, he did not change his mind because there was beer. Jesus Christ.
Really?
Okay, he was going with them. It's just, you know, he was a bit scared. And
you just have to love how they give Chris Hemsworth. I'm sorry, how they give Chris Hemsworth these moments.
Yeah. And he's actually the one that pitched the idea, right, for the fat suit or fat Thor.
I'm not.
Wasn't it?
I'm not familiar with that. No.
I think he was.
I think I heard something about that. He pitched something about the fat suit.
I mean, Chris Hemsworth is a great collaborator. I mean, he's always up for anything. And I think he's just excited that they're finally using his talents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is so weird. Like, he had 2 movies.
3.
Well, before that, before they were actually like, okay, this is what we're gonna do.
Well, actually 4. I mean, there's the two Avengers movies, and then the 2 Thor movies, right?
Yeah, Avengers. I mean, Avengers is probably the best one aside from Ragnarok.
Right, for Thor, yeah. But it's like the Dark World and Age of Ultron. You get the impression they just didn't know what to do.
Can you imagine if Loki was still there? Man. Oh, man.
Oh, God.
I would have loved it.
Yeah. Well, he stayed dead. Well, not necessarily.
I like this scene was pretty cool and all. I like the one shot sequence. I actually like this this actor right here. He's amazing.
Do you know where he's from? Oh.
I can't remember. I just know he's always plays like a villain in some type of movie or show, and it's just really always he's always a great villain.
And then here we have another crisscross set of events where we have Natasha, who is doing the reverse of what Clint did with her, in that she is pulling him out of being basically yeah. That's why I know, like, when we get to Vormir, in the previous audio commentary for this movie with Kyle and with Peter, which you can listen to, although why you would, I don't know. But in that commentary, Peter was like, he would have preferred if Clint was the one to have sacrificed himself, and then Natasha would have stayed and looked after his family.
No,
I didn't feel that like at all.
Yeah. No, I'll explain why when we get to that scene.
Also, I want you to keep this in mind when we get to that scene, because we're going to have a lot to say about Natasha, because she is a big part of this movie, although people want to erase that. And then also bring up how a lot of people, like, this got her death got criticized for a number of reasons. Mm-hmm. Let's be clear about that. Some that were just, I think, ridiculous, like that they were, they're killing off the only girl. Okay. That I know that you got pissed off at that specifically, David.
Yes.
So here's I don't know what to say. There's Thor, everybody.
Yeah, here's all the fat jokes that they make after this. That's always hilarious.
It is.
Lebowski.
God, Rocket looks so good.
Yeah, it does. People were saying that they were maybe a bit too offensive, the fat jokes in this movie. There were, there was a whole controversy that this movie was laughing at Thor, but it's like, it's one of those, you watch the movie, just, oh God.
When do they call him fat?
No, but they're just now. Like
they called him Lebowski.
And Lebowski's a big guy, and so he kind of looks like him. And then, but
I don't think that's necessarily calling him fat. It's just they purposely made him look like that for a reason.
Well, there's like, other lines like Cheese Whiz and other stuff that happens in this movie.
So go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think it's not fair, because it's not as if the movie itself is laughing at Thor. I mean, we get big character moments with Thor here, and like
some of my favorite character moments.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to say,
I love this scene.
Oh yeah. It's like
yeah. Go ahead, David.
Yeah. Well, with Thor's thing, I kind of understand them, because they also weren't hit. How to explain it? So they were making jokes in certain serious situations. So like the whole Cheese Whiz thing, he was about to have a breakdown and all that. And like
this made it funnier to me. That was a little mean, I will say that.
Yeah, like he was about to have a breakdown, and then you make a joke, and it's kind of like, I think in a normal situation, you want to kind of calm down.
Of course. But like, I think there's a difference between like saying that the characters themselves are being mean and the movie itself is being mean. I think the movie, treats Thor by the end of the film where he's at a place of acceptance, that he's been trying to find for a long time. So I feel there's a bit of a distinction there. Yeah.
They mentioned Back to the Future and how saying like what did they say exactly? Like Back to the Future is all wrong, or
the line is, so Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. Some people were saying that was a diss on the movie, like saying like, "Oh, fuck that movie." And
No.
It was just
Who was saying that?
Some people did think that. It's just trying to tell you in a funny way, really, that what you've seen in other movies, it's not gonna be the same here. Like, forget it.
I feel people who think that was an insult are the same people who like have to like insist that all movies abide by their own personal like logic, and if it doesn't, then it's just not believable, and then that ruins the movie. And I can't sympathize with that, because I just think that just ruins the whole magic of movies. It's the suspension of disbelief. I mean, that's what this is all about.
Can you believe that suit is all CGI? I legit never thought once that it was CGI.
And that's why I keep saying how underappreciated these movies are, especially when it comes to visual effects. Yeah. Like, it's the same thing like when Attack of the Clones, not that I am defending that movie in any sense, I'm just bringing that up. Like, there was not a single clone trooper armor outfit suit that was physically made. The same way with the time travel suits. Mm-hmm. It's all CG, and they look fucking real.
Yeah. I like how they named it Operation Time Heist or something like that.
Did they?
Yeah.
Of course they did, yeah. Fucking Scott's there. But I mean, this is one of, I think, one of the more entertaining moments of the movie, like just watching them like figure out, okay, how is this going to work? It's hilarious how it took them like a couple of days maybe to figure out, oh yeah, if you pick the right year, there are 3 stones in New York. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really wish they put that deleted scene of Rocket making fun of them for not beating the Chitauri.
Oh God.
I think he's dead.
Yeah, here's Chris Hemsworth recapping the events of Thor: The Dark World. In case you forgot, of course, I think he'd be forgiven if he forgot the events of that movie.
I love that this is the one that they have to go back to.
Some people were kind of like, someone asked the writers like, did you want to go back in your own movie just to like kind of have a little joke with the fans, or did you really thought of it as an important storyline? And that's just a real question that they asked the writers since they wrote Thor. I did not know they wrote Thor: The Dark World.
I didn't know either. Yeah. But though, I mean, that movie was just troubled. I was evidently, because I watched the John Campea show, and he was saying that he had sources that told him that when that movie was shooting, that they literally flew in Joss Whedon, where he was working on Avengers 2, to come in and like do rewrites at the last minute. They didn't know what to do with that movie, because there was a story that came out recently that Patty Jenkins, the director of Wonder Woman, turned down the job to direct this movie because she said literally, I didn't think I could make a good movie out of that script.
Dang.
Ouch.
Yeah. Oh, it was actually more than that too. If she would have gone with it, not only could she not have made a good movie out of it, but
it would have destroyed her career.
Yeah,
destroyed her career and other female directors' career, really, for like trying to make other superhero movies. If she would have failed, she would have been the first one to direct a superhero movie, first female director to direct a superhero movie, and she would have failed. No other chance for any other woman.
Which sucks. That's just how our society works.
Yeah,
But it was a good choice. Thank God she was being really picky about it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big part of the consideration for why she turned it down, you know? This right here, people, the Russos and I think Marcus and McFeely were addressing a little bit of confusion some fans had about why it was that Nebula didn't tell, especially to Natasha or them, that Gamora was sacrificed by Thanos to gain the Soul Stone. And the answer was...
She didn't know.
She doesn't know that. All she knows is that Thanos went to Vormir with Gamora. Thanos got the stone, and he came back without Gamora. So he didn't need Gamora anymore because she showed him where the stone was. So naturally, Nebula would assume, oh, you killed Gamora because you don't need her anymore. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that's like what you would think. Not that... Because Gamora knew where the Soul Stone was, but she didn't know what the damn ritual would be.
Yeah. Nobody knew.
Yeah. Which is why right now when you see, it is bittersweet, but they did this on purpose right now when they're about to jump into the quantum realm. The last thing that Natasha says to Steve, see you in a minute. Which is,
yeah. And I also just like the team ups here. Mm-hmm. They said in the audio commentary you had two of them non-powered superheroes going out into like the deepest parts in space. Oh, that's Natasha and Hawkeye, Clint, and then of course you gotta have Captain America and Tony together just to have just to kind of reignite their friendship and all. Mm-hmm. War Machine and Nebula, I like their little interaction.
I love Thor and Rocket together. I love that we get them together.
Yeah, like that was the only pairing that was repeated basically in this movie from the previous one, which I think shows you just how successful that was. By the way, we're only an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
Which is great how much fun this is. And here we are with the second act. This was so exciting watching this, like just like the anticipation for what was going to happen. And then right now when we see them go into it and you see the words New York 2012.
Oh, I saw this movie without David and I was so excited for him to see this part. I was freaking out.
Not only does it take them back, but it takes us as audiences back to that, you know, that moment and what that felt like. The first Avengers.
This is his like favorite scene ever.
Yes. Every time they show it on TV or anything, I'm always like, I need to watch this scene right now.
Yeah, like even if it's like an hour away, like he'll time it to go back.
I literally learned how to time it. I'm like, okay, hold on, what time is it for?
Oh shit.
It started like at 3.
Yeah.
Then 3 hours in, around 5 we should start, and I'm literally right on it. Right here, Hulk. Well, Professor Hulk getting embarrassed. I was like, one thing I want to bring up when he gets to the Sorcerer Supreme. Just like a little quick thing I want to bring up. I'll when it gets there.
Right.
Oh, here, I think. Hold on.
And one of the wonderful things of, you know, going back to the past, you get to revisit dead characters. Here's Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One.
Yeah. No, the thing I wanted to bring up is just that as soon as they see each other, the music, it kind of gets weird for me. I don't know if you noticed it.
What? That right there?
Like a little, no. It was like right when they see each other, and like kind of like a slow jazz melody plays, and it's, I don't know. It kind of got weird for me. It's
well, when I know that right now when we cut to the Ancient One like blasting off some Chitauri people, like that, you are aware that was the Doctor Strange theme that was playing, right?
It was?
Yeah. So like bum 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 bum, like whatever that was, maybe that was the, it got like, if maybe it was off because that wasn't part of a natural like score. Like that was the Doctor Strange theme music that Michael Giacchino wrote for the movie that Alan Silvestri redid for the introduction of the Ancient One. So it was a musical motif to remind you of the Sorcerer Supreme in that movie. So that might be the thing that you were a little bit thrown off by. Right?
I don't know. It's really hard for me to explain it. But
Okay. So here's Asgard, and I have to say, one of the big things that they did with in this movie is it made me hate the first two Thor movies because of the wasted time they did to Rene Russo. Like her, Rene Russo as Frigga, his mom, I was just wondering, okay, but why would they bother? Like, she had no screen time in those movies, and there was just no connection with her character. It was basically non-existent. But then they made her matter, and she forget she's a great actor, but like they actually used her and used her wonderfully in this.
I actually saw the Thor: The Dark World after watching this, and it kind of like hit me a bit when her death scene came up in the movie, and it's kind of like, oh god,
because now you give a shit, right?
Yeah. It's like, I think that was a really cool thing that the writers did, just to kind of give importance. I think I said that when I reviewed it, like that they gave importance to every single movie from the past, and it's great. And again, another great character moment for Rocket to prove that he can be a great leader.
That, and it was just, I think, maybe the most emotional he's been in a while. Like, look, like, I miss my family. Like, help me here. Like, there was a little bit of desperation in his voice. The chick with the antenna, I love that.
The chick with the antenna.
That's so, oh god.
I wonder, like, man, what's his name? Bradley Cooper? Like, reading his script. Man, I would love to see, like, his reaction to it.
Right. I wondered, though, initially when I saw that, the list of people that Rocket named off right there, I wondered why he didn't mention Gamora. And then I realized, I think he probably knows that Gamora is not coming back.
Yeah.
Like, there's just, I mean, she died before the snap happened, so she's dead. Like, he says, like, some people are kind of dead and some people are dead. Or gone, whatever he says. But, yeah, I wondered why Gamora wasn't included in that list, but then he realizes, like, she's gone. Yeah. I mean, that Gamora's gone. And, like, what you mentioned before, David, this scene of watching Clint and Natasha and the Benatar traveling through space, and then, of course, the great callback, we're a long way from Budapest. That's the last fun they're going to have in a while.
Yeah.
I got a little bit scared here because I thought they were going to ruin something pretty good. Like when because Nebula is a little bit suspicious here, and when she says this right here, and then she says me, I was like, oh no, they're not going to have her double cross them right now, are they? I was so scared they were going to do that shit. And then, like, relieved that she was referring to, like, her earlier self. Did you guys get that feeling, or is it just a me thing?
Nah, I didn't get that she was going to betray them.
Well, here we are. This is right before the first Guardians movie, like a day or so before. And ladies and gentlemen, it wouldn't be a $1 billion movie without her. Here is Zoe Saldana.
I also like that they made it a good close-up shot to her.
Yeah, and also Gamora does get a lot more screen time than we would have thought. Although I don't think we were expecting much because she was dead, right? But this is a different version of Gamora. I mean, this is the Gamora we knew from the first Guardians movie, or right before the first Guardians movie happened. But this is one that just erases everything with, her family, her real family. So, like, right now, and people also had issues, apparently, with Gamora quickly turning on Thanos at the end of when the movie comes to the third act. But then it's like, if you remember the first Guardians movie, Gamora was
about to do it.
Yeah, like right here, right now, this is like Gamora's thinking of ways to get away from him.
Yeah.
That's her plan.
Also, I like the way they worked their way around to make the Thanos go back into the future to like figure out the pieces and all that. I thought it was pretty creative. Some people are kind of confused about it.
Confused about what exactly, though?
Nebula's like thing right here. Like, how exactly does it work? How's it affecting
Well, she's
her
a
now?
computer. Like, they share the same network, so
That's
they're
what
in
I
the
thought.
same time. Obviously, something's gonna go wrong.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. You know, I think they said like there's like two, I don't know, memory banks or two waves of. I don't know how to explain it.
Memory waves. I don't know.
It's like having two computers hooked onto the same Wi-Fi or something. I don't know, like the same network. Like
Yeah.
You're gonna get the exact same information out of one or the other, and if they have like different timestamps, like how these two are, they're gonna get mishmashed. I mean, I think there was, I didn't have any trouble understanding that whatsoever.
No, same. It's just I know some people got confused, and I'm glad. Maybe someone listens to it.
And here we are. We finally get to see what happened after they captured Loki. To me, one of the things that made me laugh so hard, yes, that's America's ass. That was funny. But that made me laugh so hard, but just like, oh God, those assholes. How quickly Hydra was like ready to get that damn the scepter.
Oh yeah.
Because they come up right after, right? The strike team from Winter Soldier. Yeah, like apparently they almost cut out That's America's Ass out of the movie. Like, yeah, not because they wanted to, but because they were afraid like the censors was going to like. Apparently that was there was a concern. I'm not sure if it was from the studio themselves or if it was from the rating people, but that would have been too sexualized for a Marvel movie. I don't get it. But that was a point of contention of whether or not it was going to be cut out, which thank God it wasn't.
That's a great, just like funny detail that really pays off later.
Right.
Oh my God. You think it's just like, oh, okay, that's a funny joke. Oh, actually, I thought it was just a callback to
The Dark World, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when Loki does that, there's a scene where like Thor breaks out Loki and everything. Go listen to Kyle and I's commentary on The Dark World from a year ago, where we are just so hopelessly bored. This is hilarious.
No.
Oh.
Okay, stairs. Oh, that's funny.
So this right here, like everyone was like instantly holding their breath because we thought we were gonna get like a reenactment of the famous elevator scene from the Winter Soldier. Like he was gonna come in and, like kick everybody's ass. But what we got was so much better.
Yes.
How were your guys' theaters when he was like Hail Hydra and then he just walked out with the damn staff?
Actually, I don't think there was a lot of people. Were there a lot of people in my theater?
Oh, come on. You guys are so sad. Okay, I had a full theater, and there were, like, thunderous applause.
I saw it twice. The first time, there wasn't a lot of people. Like, I went, like, an hour early.
Oh,
and I
shit.
didn't need to. And the second time, it was a full theater.
Yeah, there were applause, at least in my theater. In every single instance where he just walked out with that moment. It was a great payoff for, Winter Soldier, this right here.
Just the look on his face. It was like, fucking Captain America. Oh, man.
They buy it. They so buy it.
And then he has like that smile on his face, like, I got away with it. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Gosh. And then, of course, here we have the great Robert Redford, who at this point had already said he was retired from acting, although he keeps changing his mind every 5 minutes. But at one point, this was his final performance ever in a movie. It might still be in Avengers Endgame. The last thing he filmed.
I mostly just like this scene just because you get a bit of the Thor humor from the actual first Avengers type.
Right. You notice the differences between these characters, right? It's so stark. No pun intended.
Again, sorry for not talking. It's just
the movie just gets you in. Yeah,
it gets you in. It's still intense even after 6th time watching it.
And I guess this is also a little bit of a callback to how Ant-Man disabled Iron Man for a bit in the Civil War battle, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I get it could be. I'm not saying it's a direct callback because there are some very overt direct callbacks to moments in other Marvel movies. But I guess this is where they got the idea of doing that.
Well, it's just a little simple idea that Tony probably figured out to do because of what he did in Civil War, which is great.
And this is the pilot for the Loki series coming to Disney Plus. This made me laugh so hard. The fucking and people are scared right now because he's saying stairs. And then,
I wonder if they thought about turning him back into Bruce Banner in that scene, or what they just stuck automatically to just Hulk.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I really don't. Although that's an interesting idea to explore. One of the things that I think change or colors this differently is that I want to get to this, but then I'm watching the movie and then I get distracted because here we have one of the best moments ever.
Yes.
Oh God.
And here's the payoff for that little joke. Cap thinks it's Loki.
Yeah.
It's so great.
No, I mean it's brilliant how Cap uses his admittedly own weaknesses to defeat himself in a way, Yeah,
I know.
It's fun. It's definitely one of the things I wanted to say though. And this will be brought up several times because it's kind of a long discussion topic, and it involves what Moreno said earlier, which is the time travel thing. It should be known that the writers, Chris Marcus and Steve McFeely, and the directors, Joe and Anthony Russo, actually have a disagreement, a legitimate disagreement in terms of the rules of time travel. And you kind of see it in the movie because there are two different scenes that explain that. So the scene that we saw when Clint was testing out the quantum realm armor with Hulk and Rhodey and Ant-Man and Nebula, that whole idea of when you go back into the past, you're not changing anything. You're just altering. That past is your new future, basically. So you're basically almost going into an alternate reality of sorts. However, in an yes, that is America's ass. It'll always be America's ass that we're seeing right now. But in an upcoming sequence where right here, basically, the Ancient One is going to explain to Bruce that it is the Infinity Stones that control the flow of time, which is interesting. So what she basically says is that if you take an Infinity Stone out of sequence, then it disrupts a lot of different things, which is why they have Hulk propose that he goes back and return the stones to their own timelines, if you will, before creating alternate timelines. So there are two different points of view that we're seeing here, and it's hard to say whether or not one is right, because if the Infinity Stones create the flow of time, well, in the main timeline, there are no more Infinity Stones. They were destroyed by Thanos.
Well, the thing is, though, it's a literal scientific term that, what is it, like energy cannot disappear or something like that? I don't know the exact scientific term of it.
Right.
But energy just can't disappear in the universe. It has to be transferred somewhere else.
It goes somewhere else, yeah.
So technically, the stones aren't really... The stone's physical appearance is destroyed, but its energy still lives on in the universe. Which I think if they keep that in mind, they could have a potential... They could potentially bring back the stones physically. And there's possibly two ways they can do... There's one way they can do that, and that is to possibly kill off Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel, since both of their powers came from the Infinity Stone. I mean, I'm just guessing they can probably kill them off and like somehow bring back the stones like that. Since the Reality Stone was a liquid, they can somehow work. I don't know. The blood of fucking Captain Marvel and Scarlet Witch somehow brings back the stones with the infusion of their powers. So technically, in their present time, the stones may be destroyed physically, but their energy still lives on and create the flow of time.
I mean, I just think it's interesting that we have... this is, I mean, the biggest movie of all time in terms of its box office, right? A pop culture giant, behemoth, if you will. And we have the writers and the directors not on the same page in terms of the rules for time travel. How do you guys see it? Because, I mean, you're basically... The difference is, one person is saying that when Cap goes back at the end, that's an alternate reality. But then one side is saying, no, that's Peggy from this timeline, but he's actually in the past. It's like, how do you reconcile those differences? I mean, ultimately, it's like... I mean, from a story standpoint, it's the same impact, but like, I guess, depending on the person, there may be a difference in terms of whether or not that is an alternate reality or if that is the past. Am I making any sense, or am I just confusing you guys?
I mean, time travel, it's always going to be confusing. But it's just...
it doesn't matter ultimately, right?
It doesn't really matter ultimately, because both things lead to Cap still being old in the present time.
Right.
So he could have gone to the past, lived a life with Peggy, and like maybe once she died, he just went back to... He used it... He came back to our time, basically. Or he could have just stayed there and been on his own after her death and came back when he left. When he went back in time.
I think we've had this discussion before, but like if, let's say, Disney Plus, which I feel they should get on that, gives Agent Carter their final season as they had planned, if that happens, I can almost like guarantee that the final scene of the show would be like Peggy getting a knock on her door, right?
Yeah. Well, I said that with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
Because apparently she's going to be in it. And when she goes back to her house...
Has that been confirmed? We're going to see Haley Atwell in that? Well, I mean, that also brings in the question when the fuck we're going to get that season, huh? Considering all that's happened.
They're done. It's not like the coronavirus stopped.
No, I mean, the show ended filming a long time ago, but I'm not sure if they were done with... I'm not sure they're done with post-production.
Really?
VFX and everything. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they were almost... But I didn't... I guess just... my expectation was they were going to... Like May, like last year. How it was the previous year. They were going to air it back in May. So yeah, here we have... I don't know what it is, but like in a matter of words, right now where Frigga realizes that this Thor is in the future, and when she says like, I was raised by a witch's boy, I see him with more than my eyes, like there was just something emotional in how she delivered that. Like she's just trying to like keep herself from breaking down, like 'cause she knows, like a mother knows, just how far Thor has fallen. Like she can see how hurt he is.
Yeah.
Also, Alexis, you said that what do you make of this wig? Are you fine with this wig, or are you still like with the other wigs, like it wasn't that good? Because you had said before in the previous... Yeah.
Like, make him look better with this one.
Yeah. The future has been kind to you. That's... Ugh.
And then he just breaks down.
Yeah. I'm so totally from the future. And everybody just laughs. It's great. I mean, to me, it's amazing how in almost every instance of Thor, you have to balance just like this really high emotion with loud laughter. Because that's kind of like the dichotomy in almost every big Thor moment, right? Like there's like a great joke, but there's also a lot of pain behind it. And this is a deleted scene from The Dark World. This is not Natalie Portman did not come back for this movie. I'm not sure if they asked her. They used deleted footage and they inserted Rocket in there. But then again, she's coming back for Thor: Love and Thunder, whatever that's going to be. So, which is good because I think Natalie Portman gets trashed on, not trashed on, but I think that in both of the biggest franchises in today's age, Star Wars and Marvel, they kind of let her down a little bit.
Yeah, sucks.
Yeah. Go watch Annihilation, by the way. She's great in that.
Yeah. One of my favorite things people were saying about this movie, I saw in a lot of reviews, people loving this scene. Yeah. And it's all mostly because a lot of them never got a chance to say goodbye to one of their loved ones. And so they really connected with this scene of Thor just being with someone for one last time.
It's just so sad. And I love like the people's like description of it, like when he gets the hammer and how
happy he is that he's still worthy.
Yeah, that it's like no matter how low you've gotten, like your heart is still like what counts. You know, even if you don't see yourself that way. Right.
A big, and you're right, David, because like we also see like a similar component here, because Tony gets to say goodbye to his father also later on in the movie here in this act. But I think this was so important for Thor to hear. Like this is something that Frigga never got a chance to tell Thor because that's not where he was at. But like, it's almost like, and I'm getting a lot of, because we just did a commentary for Frozen 2. Thor is basically Elsa in a way, because like, you know, Thor thought that he wanted to be king and then he didn't want to be king, but then he had to be king. And it's like, it's time for him to stop being who people expect him to be. And it's time for him to start being who he is, which is essentially what Elsa is in Frozen 2 or at the end of Frozen 2.
And Kyle cried in this scene, didn't he? Or
I could told you if a guardian farts in the wind, he'll cry for that. He'll probably give it a standing ovation. But it is great to hear this again because it brings you right back to it brings all of us from a nostalgic standpoint. It brings all of us back to our first like exposure to what Guardians was. You know, like you remember the time when you were in that theater and after the opening fanfare and the opening scene, you have this guy in a space mask on a foreign planet, and then out of nowhere he has a tape recorder, and he is playing a song and he's dancing to it with opening credits. Like, and that piece of music right there when they're opening the temple was the exact same piece of music by Tyler Bates. When we saw them do that in the first Guardians movie. So again, really do appreciate, not just in terms of character moments, but also in musical motifs, a lot of great callbacks here. Like, for example, when we see the Avengers after they realize that Natasha had sacrificed herself, and we see that scene of them processing that, the music that they play in that scene is the exact same music that we hear in the first Avengers film when they're processing Phil Coulson's death.
Oh. That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Again, I really like this scene between the two. Just to, like, a little connection between other members of team.
It's interesting, right? I mean, Don Cheadle is so good in these movies. You almost wish they gave him more to do, but for what they do give him, he is pretty great. I wonder, though, because Captain Marvel does have a big future in the MCU. I from what Kyle has told me that the comic iterations of War Machine and Captain Marvel, that they do have a romantic relationship. Is there any possibility you think of that being explored? Because they're both Air Force, right? The background of Carol Danvers and what's his name, and Rhodey. You think they're gonna do that, or like that's not gonna happen?
I don't think so.
Would you be opposed to it?
I would not be opposed to it. But also, I actually would like it better if they kind of stick to a friendship between the two, just kind of like kind of like a mutual respect for each other. For being like
of War Machine? What's the future of War Machine in the MCU? That's the question, right? What do you do with him?
Mm-hmm. Surprised he didn't get his own Disney Plus show. Honestly,
I thought he was gonna be more with Spider-Man, just because of that connection with Tony.
It could be, but I'm not. Or maybe they do another Iron Man with him. I don't know. There were rumors, or maybe it was an April Fool's joke, maybe, that I made up, that War Machine was going to go into production at Disney Plus. I mean, honestly, I don't care. Like, I'll watch it if it's there. I mean, but it is what it is, I guess. Also, Ebony Maw is great. The loyal servant to the end here for Thanos, and then how he just gives Nebula a second chance. There was a moment here that we saw where Thanos basically saw his own death, and while Gamora was like kind of leaping for joy almost that he died, he was like basically not like in a normal situation, any person seeing their own death would be like, freak the fuck out, but he actually saw that as validation for him succeeding and him winning. And like to him, like death was like his reward or something, which is, it just speaks to who Thanos is.
Yeah. This is my second complaint. I remembered it. Why didn't you go back in time? Or go back to the future? Or present?
Who? Why didn't she?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the ultimate reason is they needed her. The movie needed her to not do that.
Yeah, that's really the only reason. I mean, I kind of wish. Yeah. I mean, literally, the only way they could have fixed it is that she was messing with her wrist, because that's where she activates her time machine. Like, if they saw her, like, just a little sequence of her messing with it wasn't working,
right?
They would have been fine, but they didn't do that.
I think an explanation would be, and again, I'm just taking it out of my ass because I'm just like looking at it from what I just saw. I guess you could say she didn't do that because she was going to go warn Natasha and Clint, because at one point in the movie, if you weren't aware of this, they talk about this in the commentary, but it's actually a full deleted scene. You can see it on Disney Plus in the extras, but there was in the movie originally going to be the Vormir scene where Natasha like sacrifices herself. At one point, that was going to include Thanos and the Black Order arriving at the last moment possible to kill them and everything. So what we just saw with Nebula going to go warn them, I think at one point that was there for what was going to be Thanos showing up and everything. But and the whole sequence, it's in almost, I think, full VFX, just about. It's on Disney Plus for those who want to look at it in the extras section. And it almost, the reason why it was removed was because it took away from Natasha's moment, because it ended up being that it was less of Natasha and Clint like fighting themselves to see who was going to sacrifice, and it was more of Thanos showing up, and that was the reason why she threw herself and everything. It ruined the moment, so that's why it was removed. And here is Stan Lee's final cameo ever, with his signature "Enough said," and I love what he says. Hey man, make love, not war. Yeah, and again, to remind you guys, like this naval base here, we saw in the first Captain America movie and the training grounds. We saw in the second Captain America movie where where Steve and Natasha go and find Arnim Zola. The building that they go into right now is the secret location for S.H.I.E.L.D. So a lot of old locations being reused, basically. And And like this is the beginning of like where I get the most emotional, because you have like Tony and his father. You also have Steve and Peggy, and then of course you end off the act with Natasha sacrificing herself. It's like this is the beginning of like where it begins to really, really hit you. You guys good?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now you're just watching the movie. Yeah, I get it. Like, doctor.
Oh, I actually heard that actress right there. I can't remember her name.
Yvette Nicole Brown.
Nicole
She
Brown. Yeah.
most known for Community and Drake and Josh.
So she filmed that scene before Infinity War came out.
Did she?
Yeah, and she got really excited for Infinity War, but then she was like, "Where's my scene?" And then in the story, the guy that was telling the story, he met her at an elevator or something, and she was about to go watch Endgame because she knew for sure this time that she was gonna get her scene.
Right.
So I thought it was just a funny story that she got really excited for Infinity War, but she didn't come out in it.
All good things come to those who wait. Apparently, somewhere in the background, it's hard to see here exactly, because you see here Howard Stark is looking for Arnim Zola, the Hydra scientist that we see in the Winter Soldier. At one point, right now, the reason why he can't find Zola is because he is transferring his consciousness into a computer, which is what happens, which we see in Winter Soldier. So in the background, you can kind of see I think that computer may be behind Howard with the green screen. No pun intended, I guess. Is where Zola is doing that. This was hilarious. It didn't occur to me until the last time I saw it. So Howard just extended his hand for a handshake, and then Tony grips his finger like a baby would, right?
Yeah.
Because this is the son of Howard.
Oh my gosh, I didn't think of it like that. Wow.
Yeah, it's really you notice these things when you watch the movie a shitload of times. I've lost count how many times I've seen it. So
yeah,
I mean, you say this is your sixth time. I've watched it 6 times in the theater alone. So at this point, I can't even. Yes.
I love it. Like even before, I don't know, because I've always loved Ant-Man. I think from the Marvel universe, Ant-Man was my favorite.
Where was that from? From the comics, you mean, or from something else? Or just in general, you like the concept of Ant-Man?
Yeah, because I was never big on Marvel. I've always been more.
It was DC.
DC.
You're a DC girl.
Yeah. And so my only kind of knowledge of Marvel was Ant-Man.
Yeah. Not Squirrel Girl? There's some ridiculous heroes, I mean, I will say. I mean, to me, this is why the second act is so important, because we get to have a lot of moments of closure, especially with characters who are going to be leaving us, and then moments of development with those who are going to be staying, like Thor. But this was so important because in the very early films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Tony hated his father for many different reasons. And then here he has, this is after, realizing that his father was murdered by one of his father's own friends. And then now Tony being a father himself, you just the growth, right? And then just Tony just being there and kind of encouraging his own father who was about to be a father. So poetic. And then this right here, you guys talk because I'm going to cry.
I'm so excited for the scene.
Yeah. It's just, it was nice seeing her back, and then just really,
oh my God.
It's just really emotional, especially for Captain America right there.
It's just I remember watching the video by Grace Randolph. She's someone who's a nut job, but she's great to watch her videos. But she was breaking down, describing this moment, because you realize just how completely and utterly alone he's been for such a long time without her in his life. And I remember watching this, you know, in the first time, it took everything in me to not just like completely lose it. And I mean, like, you know, Kyle at the end of Rogue One losing it, because it's just so incredibly sad. And you see it all in his face. He doesn't have to say a damn word. You see how he feels. Right there. And what I thought was a nice touch, and they mentioned this, I think somebody mentioned this, I forget. But you saw that the picture that Peggy had of Steve was not him all buffed up. It was the Steve that she fell in love with. That small kid, that small guy, basically, right? And I think it just shows that her having that photo is, I think, confirmation, or maybe even validation to him in a way, to Steve, that she's loved her or she's loved him before he loved her in a way, maybe. And maybe at some point he thought, well, I don't know at what point she loved me, but that was just, I think, a nice touch for the people out there who speculate that, oh, well, the minute he got abs is when like she began to swoon, but that's not at all what happened, you know. And this also just gets me too. Like, and I love this little thing here where like he wants to hug him and like, thank you for everything done with this country. And awkwardly just tries to go past that.
I also love this. Oh my god.
James Darcy, everyone, from Agent Carter. Go and finish that show. Come on. Finish it.
Just one more season.
Bring it back.
Just
Disney
one more
Plus.
season. Do it.
Disney
Do it. Come
Plus.
on. You can do it. You got Marcus and McFeely. They're not doing anything right now. Come back. Let's do it. And he's aged remarkably well, better than Howard aged apparently in that time, because this is the 70s, right, that we're in, that we were just in, and Agent Carter was like, what, 48, 49?
60s?
No, they were in the 40s.
I don't know.
Doesn't Agent Carter take place like not even 1950?
Takes place like, I don't know, a year after Captain America or something.
Well, because that was the year that World War II ended, and that would be 1945, because he says even in this movie that that he went in the ice in 45. There are a lot of times that the movie, tells you what's going to happen. So at this point, there had been many references to Peggy. The first time when they're in the opening, they find Thanos and Steve is looking at his little compass with her picture on it. Then again, after the 5 years where he mentions that he met the love of his life. And then, of course, here that we just saw, it's all just telling you where the movie's going to go and where it's going to end, if you look for that. So I guess at this point we can talk about David, because we're about to literally go into it. Natasha Romanoff.
So, okay, I gotta get ready for this. Okay.
Yeah, we got to. It's about to come up.
So, it is not a dumb death or whatever people say about it. It wasn't. So, one complaint people said, it was that whole sacrifice the female character to basically, motivate the male characters. And technically, yes, that is what it is. The difference, though, is that every other movie that does that, the female character isn't the character at all. She's just either love interest or the crush, or she's literally just there to die. Like, no. This one, Natasha, was built up for many, many years, and her death wasn't just to motivate the male leads. It was to help save the universe, people.
And her family. Which, that's what they are. I mean, we've talked about this many times, at least with the three of us are concerned, that she... Because at this point that we're seeing right now, and what we saw in the opening of the film, is that she became the de facto leader in the absence of Tony. And she was the one that everybody was reporting to. So at this point, she is very much the patriarch, alongside Tony, or maybe more so than Tony at this point, but alongside Cap. So... this was her whole thing, in getting back her family and saving the universe. And um, to me, yeah, I was upset, but not because of the decision to do it, but because I love that character, and it makes me feel bad that she's dead. That's why I was a little just left raw by it. But I think when you're looking at Black Widow, this is the natural conclusion and endpoint for her character, because we're talking about, again, as we mentioned in Infinity War, this is a character who, off screen, granted, but who began as a villain, as a bad guy, and who went on again, the distance traveled, who went on a long road of redemption. And to me, this does so much. In many ways, her sacrificing herself and not Clint doing it is the opposite of what Clint, because Clint gave her second chance, and now she's giving him his second chance.
She says a
in
line.
that aspect.
She says a line right there that I'll point it out when it gets to it.
Mm-hmm.
But for anyone that says that it should have been Clint, she's got to say right now why it shouldn't have been.
Right.
And also, like I mentioned this in the review of it, but the writers basically had no choice but to make it her, by the way. Because Cap only loved... Really, the only person that he probably loved the most was Nat. But the one that he truly loved was Peggy. She's not
different
there,
kind
so
of love, obviously.
Yeah, different kind of love, obviously, but still, it had to be her. Clint only loves Nat. He loves his family, but again, they're not there, so it has to be Nat. Tony, it's his. I don't know who would be more, either Pepper or his daughter. Hulk, again, only Nat. Who else is there? Rocket. I mean, he probably doesn't love any of the other Avengers teams,
right.
but he definitely cares
beside
about
all
them.
those reasons, even if you put that to the side, it makes sense for her. It makes sense for her story, her character. Again, think back to in the first Avengers movie.
Think back to even Iron Man. Like...
Well, in the first Avengers, she says to Loki, I have red on my ledger and I want to wipe it out. And then Loki was like, well, can you wipe out that much red? Like, this is a person who's killed people, like a lot of good people in her past. And this is the ultimate atonement for that. And, you know, it should be mentioned that she is the mom of the group. She is also, I think, when you look at who you're going to look at, which Avenger is going to sacrifice themselves, she, I feel, is the character that has the most emotional attachments to most of the Avengers. Clint, Bruce, Cap, like all of them are the most devastated, as you'll see, because of her sacrifice. And, you know, ultimately, as sad as it is to lose, you know, in what this franchise as the main heroine, this is a heroic moment. And this is, you know, just about the most selfless act that any of them could ever do. And she just does it. And she just does it as an act of love.
Also, another thing, since they were about to fight it off to see who gets to kill themselves, Nat, he has always beaten Clint, by the way. So it was only inevitable that she would win this fight to see who could sacrifice themselves.
Let me go. It's okay. I mean, that oh, God. Excuse me, I'm going to go cry.
Yeah. Again, the music is not about Gamora's death theme. It's sacrifice theme, really.
Right. And it's a different aspect here. So it was a horrific sacrifice in the Infinity War. And even though you're horrified that we're losing a genuinely great person here, it is a heroic act. It's
also a pretty cool way to see this scene in two perspectives. Because like in the first one, you had it's Thanos' perspective and how what kind of sacrifices have to be made in order to save the universe. And whereas you see the actual good guys having what they think it should take in order to save the universe.
Like, to me, I just think it was what was the alternative of her not sacrificing herself and dying? Where it's like, to me, I think it's a great respect to her character to have given her such a big moment and a big arc. And to me, I've always felt that it was, and it remains, I feel the case, really underappreciated how much, particularly the Russos, have grown her character from Winter Soldier to Civil War, and now here in Endgame. Like she, like a lot of people just, think of her as this side character, but when you go back and watch those movies, she's a lead. Maybe not, the lead, but she's definitely an essential part of this group. And she, at every turn, even in Civil War, at every turn, her main thing is to keep everyone together, to keep the family together. And so, like, even if you watch Civil War, like, it tracks with what we know of her, and what she has always been trying to do is to get everybody back.
I completely missed the part. I was talking over it, but the reason why it shouldn't have been Clint is because Nat says a line of it was something like, I don't
judge people on their worst mistakes.
Yes. Again, people kept saying it should have been Clint because he killed a lot of people. But for one thing, Clint was killing bad guys.
Right.
Natasha was killing innocent people.
Right.
So if you want to weigh in, the death toll, okay, I guess who wins it?
That was a great exchange. Like, I don't judge people on their worst mistakes.
Mm-hmm. And if
he said, like, maybe you should, and then she was like, you didn't.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And if you want an example though of like what she did, look at the deleted scene in Winter Soldier. I don't know if you ever saw it, but
which one?
In a deleted scene in Winter Soldier where she was about to when Natasha was about to put all the SHIELD secrets onto the internet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
it was an extended sequence there.
And what is it? Robert Redford, he's trying to warn her. It's like, you really want people to know your past? And he was listing off certain missions that she had, and one of them, I couldn't remember the full name, but it had the word kindergarten in it. And he's kind of like, you sure you want that to come out? So again, if you want death counts, if you want to count that in, guess who wins it?
There's a broader perspective there for sure. And not just yeah, I mean, to me, I'd rather have a character-based decision rather than a decision based on, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we had her in the last battle and she leads all the women and all that.
It makes it even more emotional because she's not there, because she should have been there, but she's not.
Yeah, that moment was in her honor, basically, because she was the first female Avenger in a sense, and then we have all of that. Yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Are you okay?
That scene just makes me so emotional.
And the one the one that we just talked about, because a lot of guys, let's be real about that, trash it as if it was like, oh, here, fucking SJW propaganda and shit. And I'm like, guys, really? It was a cool moment. That was the point, but why does that have to be bad? I thought it was a beautiful moment. I don't understand why we should complain about it. And it just reminds you how many strong women are in this franchise, which, by the way, can you say the same for Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or whatever? Have this many strong female characters? You see?
And honestly, part of the reason why they're complaining about it is because we had so many, what they say, SJW moments, in the past couple of years. If this was the first one in a long time, nobody would have complained about it.
This also came out after Captain Marvel, and that had a big fucking derailed SJW. People were just awful to Brie Larson and that movie, and unfairly. Peter doesn't really like Captain Marvel. I mean, I like it, but not really. I mean, the movie in and of itself and the character, but he's but fuck these people. We have our own issues with the movie and with the character, but that's not...
It shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, their issue shouldn't be an issue. Let's be real about that. And then this right here, like perfect, a little bit poetic here, like the radiation that leaks from the Infinity Gauntlet is radiation. I mean gamma.
Gamma radiation.
Mostly gamma. Sorry, no duh. But like it's mostly gamma, and Hulk is like this realization of like it's like
He's like,
I was built for this. Yeah.
I was made for this. We just missed the Cheese Whiz moment again.
Yeah.
Like I said, he was having a breakdown. Maybe not add a joke in there about his habits, but
it was hilarious though.
It was funny. I still laugh about it too. Also, I have that Infinity Gauntlet. I should have brought it up.
Yes, you do. It's right. And here we go. This moment right here, again, it picks up where we see, like I mentioned earlier, Clint's wife. Like another reason for why it had to have been Clint to make it out alive of Vormir is because you remove. How else do you get a little bit of a clue or a hint that people did come back? Mm-hmm. Because the battle that happens when Thanos like destroys everything, you forget that the snap even worked or anything. Like you're kind of left a little bit in limbo. But that phone call is there to give you a hint that it did work, that she has returned, right? Mm-hmm. Which brings you right back to the beginning of the movie. Otherwise, if you remove that, how would you have any kind of like insight as to whether or not it worked?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you got it. Okay.
Yeah. He's got it. He's fine.
Also, when we see this, because obviously the roof is smashed open here, and after the explosion that we see with the Infinity Gauntlet, we see a close up of Hulk's face, and you see his eyes just widen in the worst way possible because he recognizes Thanos' ship. Remember at the end of Thor Ragnarok, he knows what that ship looks like. So, and then when the missiles fire and the entire compound is destroyed, I remember it's like people were just like in silence.
I love the difference between the first snap and how you hear thunder in the distance. Mm-hmm. When with this snap, it sounds sunshine and rainbow.
It's almost heavenly in a way, right? It's opposite. You have the birds, and you have an almost angelic musical motif playing here to accompany the return of life.
Yeah. Just another great moment for another character to be emotional.
And then it all goes to shit. Right here. Yep.
Yeah. You mentioned it, but I think literally 5 minutes passed by, or maybe 10, before the big portal scene, and people literally forget what happened. And you actually see YouTube videos of like people's reactions to the movie, and literally every single time, like Cap, it's Sam, and everyone. It's like
it makes the moment that much more special because you're left a little bit in limbo with whether or not did it work.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope there weren't any like custodial staff that were snapped back to life in the compound.
I mean, by the type of security Tony was making.
Yeah,
for the
right
snap.
here, Rocket like gives you so much anxiety.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But the type of security that Tony was putting for the snap, I'm pretty sure he was like, "Everyone get out." At least that's what I would like to think.
Well, I mean, how do we not know that there are people who were snapped out of existence? Like, let's say they were mowing the lawn or something.
That's true.
That's what I meant. But, the way that the Russos explain is that Hulk got everybody back, but in a safe location where they wouldn't be killed or whatever. Like, let's say if people were, like, on an airplane, they wouldn't just like snap back to that and then fall out of the sky and die. Like they would be like brought back on the floor where they're perfectly safe, you know? And we see glimpses of that in the opening of Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yes.
When they just blip back. And there's the Infinity Gauntlet. That's the one you have, or is it the Iron? Yeah, that's the one you have.
The Iron Gauntlet. Is that what it's called? Iron Gauntlet? I actually don't know.
I guess. Also, one of the added benefits of Clint having gone through the whole Ronin persona is now he doesn't just have a bow and arrow, but he has a cool sword.
Yes.
So, and of course here we have the wonderful theme, the Thanos theme.
Yes. Again, sorry for the silence, and it's gonna happen a lot in this scene because it's one of the best.
Yeah. Should we talk about what's going to happen right here is Gamora, right? We already discussed her making the turn and everything, because that was, I feel like, just premeditated at this point, but it was... I still ended up feeling the emotion there, because even though this isn't like our Gamora, the moment has been prepared for throughout all the movies of Nebula and Gamora finally standing together as sisters against their abuser. I mean, it is a powerful moment in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Nebula basically says like the same thing to her as in Guardians 2, doesn't she? Like Guardians 2, she says like, I only ever wanted a sister.
Right. And remember, this movie was being written before Guardians 2 was even released.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think they were not aware of the fact that Nebula ended Guardians 2 with her basically going to go off on a search for Thanos. So when in Infinity War, you see that she's captured and that Thanos explains that she snuck on the ship to try to kill him. It was perfect how it ended up being that way, but they didn't know that Nebula ended Guardians 2 with that particular mission. So that was a happy coincidence. And this also was a ridiculous point of contention. There are people who complain that at this moment Thor didn't get hot again.
I honestly thought that was gonna happen. I thought he was just gonna like lose the weight as soon as he
But
gets
it's
the
so
axe
much better that it didn't happen though, because I feel like if he just ended up going back to his usual self, it just would have erased the pain that he's feeling entirely, and it's not gone. How do you guys feel about it? Have you heard about that complaint?
Yeah, I've heard about it, and I thought it was gonna happen too, and I'm glad that it didn't. But it's also just it was a good idea to keep him that way, just because some people were saying that that's why he's not as strong as he was before, because he gained so much weight.
Right, but he's still pretty fucking strong, isn't he?
Yeah, but also part of the reason why he's having trouble against Thanos is because if you notice, he's aiming for the head the entire time.
He learned from his mistake.
Yes, but I mean, look, a lot of us are, we're not perfect specimens, and we're overweight, and we're plus size or whatever, I guess you could say. It's nice to have a superhero, be that way, even though Chris Hemsworth isn't that way in real life, but it's just nice to have that kind of representation be depicted. I know one of the hilarious jokes from Kevin Smith, we all know Kevin Smith, the director. Yeah. He would joke that when he was a kid, in the days of it's cosplay, but before it was called cosplay, the only thing that people, as he described him, the only way that us fat boys, the only character we had from Star Wars was Porkins, was the X-Wing pilot that got killed in the battle in the Death Star trench run. That was the only character that they had that they could, adequately portray in a costume or whatever, which is pretty sad when you think about that. But now they got Thor, which is great.
Yeah.
And it's cool that it's him because at one point he was the strongest out of all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Easily the strongest and everything. And yeah, for however little it lasts, it's cool to have, Thor use both Stormbreaker and Mjolnir.
Because it also leads to an awesome scene.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
An electric moment, if there ever was one. I mean, there's plenty of them here.
Oh yeah.
Ay. Fucking Ant-Man. That stupid butthole thing was so upsetting to me. Not upsetting. It was funny, but like it got old quick. This whole like suggestion that all Ant-Man had to do was like go up Thanos' ass and like enlarge. But it's like, okay, sure, but that's not what a movie is about, guys.
In one of the CW shows that we talked about in Infinity War, you have a character named the Atom where he can shrink down and all that, and they did something like that. Only it wasn't up the butt, but it was through someone's mouth. So he was in his stomach, and he was knocked out at the time, but he gained consciousness when he was inside. And he hears the captain going, enlarge. And he's like, why? Where the heck am I? Just do it. And he does it and kills the villain of the episode.
Wow.
Yeah. Great scene.
Yeah. It's... I feel it's largely underrated, but this is the ultimate redemption of Nebula. In a way here. It's like, this is her coming, face to face with who she was, and she kills that version of herself. And it's sad because they do try and you see the pain in the past Nebula's eyes, but she's just not at the point where she would go all the way and betray Thanos.
And Nebula knows that.
Yeah, which is why she pulls the trigger instantly. Yeah, there's a lot of really repressed trauma in that character, and Karen Gillan does an amazing job of conveying that just in her eyes and her face through all that makeup that she has to wear.
The second time I watched this movie, I was laughing because I had my hair the same way that Thor has his hair.
You mean how it's braided in this sequence? Or like what? How was your hair like Thor's exactly?
Like I had my hair up like how he has his, and I realized it like halfway through, and I'm like, wow.
Here we go. So talk to me about your guys' audience reactions when this moment happened here. The big Captain America Mjolnir.
Actually, my theater was freaking silent.
I know, yeah, mine was really boring. There was two guys behind me that kept talking, but like critiquing the movie, and me and my dad, we were just like, I turned around to them a few times to be like, you guys need to shut up already.
Wow. Fuck them. Like that's just annoying. Well, I'm sorry. I got the exact opposite reaction.
No, that's
People, good. It was thunderous is how loud it was when that happened. Just like a bunch of claps, a bunch of squeals, screams. This is just, oh gosh. Look at this.
I do remember like not getting up from my seat, but like scooting up and like sitting up straight and just like, oh my god.
Whoa. What? Ow. And then you see just the viciousness of Thanos here, right? Like even with the Mjolnir, Cap still couldn't necessarily beat him. And it's like, this is what I mentioned earlier in Infinity War. It's like the fighting style and this Thanos is just a lot different than the one we saw in Infinity War. Because this one, he's trying to kill you. Like more than trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm. His weapon is so scary.
The sword?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a blade. Like 4 blades.
Yeah, it's a pure blade, and it cut through the shield.
To me, this right here, well, later on it's going to come up, but one of the best shots is about to come up. Oh my god.
One of my favorite shots ever. And again, a lot is conveyed through that because it's not just, from a technical perspective, it's not just an amazing, like, wide shot, you know, to show you the scale of all of the incoming death that is coming for Captain America. But it also just tells you everything you need to know about who Captain America is. That, you know, the lone soldier going at it alone, you know, like he always does. And even he'll probably die by doing that. You know, he's up against an army. He'll gladly do that to the very last drop of blood. And the emotional reaction that he has, the tears that he has in his eyes when he realizes that everyone's back, it's not just like tears of joy for like the fact that they survived, that they've returned. But like, in the Russos said it, I think, in the commentary, and it makes it more emotional. For the first time in his life, he doesn't have to go at it alone. And he finally had, like, you know? Look
right
at that.
there.
Oh my God. That's
so cool. And then right here is where I cried. Immensely.
Right this instant, or like getting to that?
Getting to that. Like,
okay.
I would say about here. Just like, again, like as soon as people hear that, they're all shocked, and then you see the portal. It's just this great start to the beat and the trumpets, and it's like a marching band. Well, we literally see an army marching into the battlefield. And then right there, that nod Black Panther gives him, as like, we got you. And I said this in the review, but Falcon coming in and like flying around while all the portals opening up, it's like a freaking guardian angel. Again, someone telling him we're all here. And
the antenna lady.
that, and then people were cheering when Spider-Man came back, and again, Spider-Man was the first superhero that I loved, so seeing him there is just kind of like,
dang.
I was. This is literally just all I ever wanted from these movies, just the big scene with all the characters.
It's the truest realization, the truest culmination of what your wildest dreams would be, and you're actually experiencing it. I don't know what else you can say. You know, this is it.
I love this. Like seeing her there.
Yeah.
And then it's Giant Man right here, man. Like, what else could you ever want?
And nitpicks. I still think you could have made it bigger. I still would have loved to have seen a fleet of helicarriers come in with Nick Fury.
Same. Just add Daisy and the rest of them. Like, it doesn't matter.
You don't even have to show them. Like, you know how in Star Wars they have the ghost ship from Star Wars Rebels. Yeah, you could just have the damn Zephyr 1. Their freaking home base, and that would be it.
When he says assemble, I mean, I would have loved it if it was like assemble, like a giant scream. But I kind of like how they kept it restrained a bit and just kind of, it's like just a little bit of a force that he gives it out.
Right. And oh my goodness, this is like something of this scale. Like, this is what I imagine the big Lord of the Rings fans must have felt like when they saw Return of the King. Like, I like those movies, but God help me if I could remember a single thing that happened. I have to go back. I have to go back and watch them. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I recognize that they're amazing movies, but I don't remember much of what happened to who these people were. But
this scene is
power couple.
My God. So in The Last Jedi, my favorite scene is like the throne room scene, and I loved like a video of Kylo and Rey like fighting together. Like that's what I would watch over and over again. And that scene with Iron Man and Rescue was like my favorite because it kind of was the same.
I was crying at this point.
Oh yeah.
This reunion was just everything. I think people behind me were also crying at her. He finally gets his hug.
I love that they changed this scene because they saw how fans reacted to Spider-Man's death in Infinity War.
Yeah. And even though it's not Gamora, it's still a wonderful reunion. Like, you know, Peter Quill sees the woman of, you know, the love of his life. What was I going to say originally? Oh, yes. To me, the first time I saw this, I was in a state of being so blown away. I could not fully like absorb the many emotions that were going through me the first few times I saw this, especially the first time. But I think it was the very last, because remember I said, this is funny. I said that I saw this 6 times in the theater. The very last time actually not the last time. I think it was the second to last time I saw this. And mind you, when Endgame came out, I was the level of anxiety and that I had in me because of my profession and everything was at a high, and me going to go see this movie was like the purest escapist like thing I could do to get away from that, and it would like help me through it. But the second to last time that I saw Avengers Endgame was in was the last movie I saw. I think it might have been the last movie I saw in I don't even remember anymore. Jesus. But it was one of the last time. Yes, in Washington. But no, I know that I saw it there, but I was going to say if it was the last time that I saw anything in Washington, the last screening that I had basically there. And it really wasn't about the location, but it was more about the portal sequence. But I think like it was the 5th time that I saw the movie where it broke me, and I was just like ugly crying because of just like, it brought me back to just being a little kid, you know? It just more than I ever dreamed it would. So it was, it was all that and more. And so people have issues in terms of this final battle here being too focused on the individual character moments and not enough cutaway shots to the scale of the battle. How do you guys feel about that?
I think that they kind of covered it when everybody showed up.
Like that's all you needed, basically.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just kind of like, I think this is important though, because it's just gonna have to lead to one big event after another, you know?
And their character moments.
I don't know if you noticed, but there was a screw up right there. Giant Man was in the background, even though he's supposed to be in the van right now.
I never noticed it.
Yes.
I don't even know who you are. I just love that.
Well, I think it's also kind of important that they focused on the individuals just because there's so many.
Yeah, and then we got a lot of them back, so it's like they need their moment too.
In the movie, right?
Yeah.
They otherwise wouldn't be in the movie. Yeah. Like Wanda here got a great... I remember like that. You can tell how successful a character is. Like when she got in Thanos' way, that was a moment that people were like cheering.
Yeah.
God damn, that sword.
Mm.
And then she has him here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like she basically has him here. And if Thanos didn't cheat, that would be the end of it. Our troops. Who gives a shit? Just fire.
Oh, this is so cool. I love that sorcerer. It's just, you see shields coming up.
Yeah, and like the army, like it does feel like Lord of the Rings because the army is just so different. You have the Wakandans, you have the sorcerers, you also have Asgardians, and you have just other kinds of galactic forces. I know, like the what's it called? The Ravagers from the Guardians movies are here. Howard the Duck is here.
I mean, also, if people would compare it to Lord of the Rings has a lot less characters. Like, I don't think they even have half the characters that Avengers have.
Main character, like big characters.
Yeah.
I feel. Yeah.
And some things, and some of the characters you have to make payoffs for, and some of this you just kind of want to show it off. Like right here,
Yeah.
this is a show off right here. Like, where did she get that horse? I don't know, but I mean, she has one, so let's give it a shot. And so, and then you have you had to get Peter Quill with Gamora back. You had to get Scarlet Witch against her Thanos moment. They could have added Hulk versus Thanos type of fight thing, but I mean, for one thing, I think that would have been the loss because he has one arm.
Yeah, like he's kind of crippled at the moment. This here. Let's talk about this right here.
Did you think it was a helicarrier?
Of course.
I did too.
For the briefest of moments.
I totally forgot Captain Marvel was a thing.
Yes.
Right.
It's the Ojo was that. Like, maybe she got Fury back or something. And
yeah,
she's like,
if both of them would have shown up, I feel like it would have been a little better.
Yes. I mean, it's so cool, though. Like, she's badass.
Yeah, even still, I mean, you got to give Captain Marvel a moment, and look at this shot. What a fucking moment that is.
His world just fell apart.
And of course, this motif you're listening to, that is the Captain Marvel theme from her movie. So again, I love how they're using more of those now. They're bringing back those themes. Like, this is what I told Peter. Like, the moment that Captain Marvel like completely devastates Thanos' ship, it's like that moment in which I feel is also has a lot of different similarities to it. Return of the Jedi, where it's the space battle and Darth Vader's Super Star Destroyer gets like defeated, and then it lands on the Death Star and it explodes, and Admiral Akbar just like sits back in his chair just in disbelief that they were able to destroy that.
Yeah. Man. I
don't care what people say. This is still an awesome scene for me.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Because honestly, all of them can kick ass.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's like they're murderers, really, is a lot of them.
Yes, and for people that say like, "Oh, how they end up all together at the same way," we don't know where everyone is,
and who cares?
And some of them can fly, by the way, and some of them were blown away when the fire was coming back. They could have ended up together.
And it's so cool. I agree with Alexis. It's so cool that Pepper is here. I love it.
Yes. And they go up against Thanos. Like, what?
Yeah. And hold their own.
Yes.
Yep.
Ugh.
Oh.
Ow.
Dude.
That must have hurt.
Tony gets, like, beat in this movie. In both movies.
Yeah. I love his bulging eyes, though.
Yeah. Thanos looks so great here, man.
And this here, too.
A lot of people cheered in this moment.
For the wrong reasons, I feel.
Well, for two reasons, though. 'Cause I actually cheer for this moment, not because, like, oh, yeah, Captain Marvel got beat. No, it's because holy shit, that was a great plan for Thanos to just take out the stone. Like
it was unexpected, you know?
Yeah, so that's
and
what
the only way. This is great. The only way you would like blow her away is with another Infinity Stone.
Like that was a genius plan right there. That's why I cheered.
Yeah.
You have to go up the butt. I saw a video.
I still don't get that.
What?
Like him pointing.
Oh, it's the number 1.
It's like 1 in a million right here.
Oh, I see.
He's communicating. This is it, and it has to be you.
Okay.
And oh my gosh, again here, I thought originally that it was gonna be the original team taking out 1 stone at a time or something. Like that's what I thought would happen in the movie, but they did this, and I was kind of like, "Oh my god, that's genius!"
This is a reshoot, by the way.
Oh what? Oh yeah,
the I Am Iron Man was a reshoot.
Mm-hmm.
Which originally, of course, that wasn't going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Before they shot that, and that was the last scene that Robert Downey Jr. filmed as Iron Man, for Avengers Endgame, and it happened right in the same place where he first auditioned for the role of Tony Stark.
Oh wow.
Yeah, isn't that poetic?
Thanos says a line saying, "I know what it's like to lose.
I know what it's like to lose." Yeah.
The legs feel like jelly. And
to feel so desperately that you're right.
Yeah. But like specifically though, like they says the legs start to feel like jelly. And he has to sit down because he knows he lost. Okay, I think right here.
I don't know. Do you get that there's a little bit of sympathy coming out of Cap from that look? What was the point of that shot? What do you guys think?
Well, I just think that they, like, even though it's a fucked up idea, like, they understand that.
The loss,
and just, he thought he was doing the right thing. And maybe in some way they can relate to it with what happened in Civil War.
Well, I think to me it was, even for, like, as someone who is unredeemable like Thanos in a way, there is a little bit of sympathy from Cap, which again just shows you his big heart. And then this happened. By the way, I didn't notice it, but War Machine's costume got a bit of an upgrade, didn't it?
Yeah, it's a little nitpicky question thing, but how the heck did he get the suit if he got out of his
I don't
one?
care. It looks cool.
It's great.
Like that's like a great War Machine. Like that's my favorite one. Like it got really cool right there. And I wish we had more of this. Oh God.
Tom Holland's acting right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh.
Did you prefer this scene or the deleted scene where everyone kneels down?
I didn't much care for the deleted version, only because I felt that the same thing would have been better served. Like the same what that scene was going for. We were gonna get in the funeral scene, so
yeah.
No, I think what we got in the final cut was, I think, what I preferred.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might think differently, though.
No, I enjoyed the original cut of it. Like you said, that kneeling down scene. You get that in the funeral, basically.
Yeah, I didn't need it.
Although apparently it wasn't scripted at all. I think that was just something that the guy that plays Clint, apparently he just did that on purpose, and then everyone just kind of did the same thing, which I thought was cool.
And I love how she holds everything back until like he's gone.
Yeah.
And then Gwyneth Paltrow, everybody. Like, this is how it's done. Like, gosh. And I can't ever recall a single instance in a big movie like this where, in every single screening I've had, like, you tell how beloved the character is. People were weeping for this character as if they were at an actual funeral. Like, that's how, like, and I mean this sincerely at almost every single screening. Like, I think there was this one guy with his family, and all of them were crying, and he was like, "It's a movie."
No, this is where I was started crying a lot. Like, what he says.
The montage. No. Oh, the his eulogy.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. Not everybody gets a happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the music here. Oh my god. I listen to it over and over again, man.
This is everybody coming back from coronavirus in a few months. Because school is canceled, you know. Hey man, how you been? Yeah, we survived the plague. Yeah. And just the mass celebration going on here. Like, it's... Like, I know it doesn't... Like, it... Because it's not, like... Rise of Skywalker tried... Like, they're literally... Like, because it's Star Wars, they're direct... Like, I guess... It is a ripoff of Episode 6, where it's like... It's the same movie. But here, it's like... It does the same things that Episode 6 did... but of course it's a different franchise, but I think to me this is like Avengers Endgame and Return of the Jedi especially are like the best examples of how you conclude a series like this. Just like the level of emotion going on here.
This is how you conclude it, and it doesn't have to be planned.
You're right. Fuck off. It doesn't have to be. And also a brilliant touch. We have here the original, you know, you have Jon Favreau's Happy Hogan, Gwyneth Paltrow's Pepper Potts, and you also have Don Cheadle's Rhodey, who were his longest friends. Mm-hmm. And of course from the first movie. And it's appropriate that they're the only ones sitting in this, you know. And you know, there's a little touch from Don Cheadle's tear going down his face to seeing Morgan's reaction. The I Love You 3000 was why we cut to her and not him. That wasn't part of the original scene. It was added in as a reshoot or as audio of it. The audio of I Love You 3000 was added in where it wasn't part of the scene that they filmed originally, so that's why we cut to Morgan for that moment. And then of course, proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Just like if you're not going to stick the knife in enough as it already was, this is even more of that. It just takes you right back to the beginning.
Also, Natasha, they should have put just one thing for Natasha right here.
Yeah. They do, I think, address her several times, though, surprisingly, after this. Mm-hmm. Once with Clint and Wanda, and then with Bruce and with Steve at the end of the movie. So I am at least glad that she wasn't entirely forgotten at the end of this. And then this is just a reminder of how many actors are in these movies. And then also, God, what a nightmare it must have been to have scheduled this scene.
Yeah.
Mantis.
Drax wearing a vest. See, again, this isn't half the cast Lord of the Rings had. At least for main characters. And you see the kid from Iron Man 3, which no one had any idea who it was.
It was surprising to me why. I mean, it's been a long time since Iron Man 3. If you look at the chronological order, this is 10 years after Iron Man 3 takes place.
Mm-hmm. No, I had no clue. I was so confused. mainly like the Iron Man movies are not my favorite. That's why. So I think I've only seen.
You don't remember those the most.
Oh
basically.
no, I do not remember those.
Yeah. And here we have a moment of two friends, and I've always appreciated the friendship between Clint and Wanda, and then tragically enough, they both lost their closest friends, Natasha and Vision. So when I wish there was a way that she would know that we won, and then like she knows, and then like they both.
I don't like that they never like bring up her brother. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, no one really cared for him. It seems like. I mean, didn't they bring him up? Well, wasn't he alluded to in Civil War? There was a photo of him somewhere, right?
There was.
It might have been. I don't know. In her room, who knows? Maybe it was a quick scene. And then another callback to the cheeseburgers from the first Iron Man movie, which is the first thing that he went to go have after he escaped the cave.
Yes. And to have the men who created, basically, the MCU.
Yeah, Jon Favreau, the first movie. I mean, a lot of it was on the back of that first film. Which is crazy to think that was 12 years ago. Yeah, 12 years ago. Did you guys think this was I mean, I guess the movie was telling you this is a natural conclusion, but it was still pretty seismic for Thor to just give up the crown and then give it to, and then especially awesome to have Valkyrie lead Asgard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was two major decisions, right? You have Thor handing down the baton to Valkyrie, and then you also have Steve handing it to Falcon.
It makes sense for Thor to leave.
Right.
Some people thought it was a bit of a stretch to have her become Queen of Asgard, basically.
Who else is left? Who else is left?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it can be a big leap to have her be queen, but at the same time, though, it's a small place. It's not a lot of people. It's not like she has to rule, a giant.
There's not much left of Asgard. Mm-hmm. There's not much Asgardians left, and quite frankly, at this point, if it's Valkyrie or nobody, like there's nobody left. Mm-hmm. Literally, they're all dead.
Yeah.
So, are we gonna have Thor in Guardians 3 or what? Like, I keep getting like mixed feelings about from the people who are behind these movies, whether or not Chris Hemsworth is going to be a big part of Guardians 3.
I think I heard that he wasn't going to be in Guardians 3. And
I heard that at first, and then I heard that he was. So I'm like...
Well, I also heard that the Guardians might be in Thor Love and Thunder, too.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I heard that they're having trouble deciding whether they should keep him fat or have him lose weight. For Thor Love and Thunder.
He's fat because he was depressed. He went through a big thing.
Yeah,
maybe
but I mean, it's not easy
depressed.
to just like lose the weight
right,
so easily.
Right.
And then, depending on how much time has passed between Endgame
this is
Love and Thunder. But also, he might not be as depressed as he was before, but at the same time, he's still probably dealing with some stuff. Probably just doesn't want to give up that alcohol, basically.
Of course.
Oh, I love that delivery. It's so hilarious. It's so silent, and the look on his face is it's funny every time, man.
And then right here we have Bruce saying he tried to get her back.
Mm-hmm. I think it's weird. The Hulk needs glasses. I don't know. I feel like he has a perfect vision. He's turning into the Hulk. I don't know.
I don't care, man. It looks cool. I love glasses.
Yeah.
Come on. The great frames here. And for those who are not aware of this instance here, Bucky is entirely aware of what Steve is about to do, in case that wasn't clear. That's just why he says, I'm going to miss you. And of course, wonderful callback to the first movie and their entire relationship.
Mm-hmm. Also, again, Cap suit, the best.
Oh God, yes. Jesus fuck.
Like I think it's Winter Soldier costume, but now they added like the little scale thingies for like the original comics, basically. And
right.
It's a perfect combination, honestly.
Yeah, I've always loved, except for maybe I like the Avengers one, except with the damn stupid helmet. It was ugly, which is why he didn't wear it in this movie, because Chris Evans was like, I'm not wearing that helmet.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he at least, he did, but not with the, I guess, whatever.
So
yes, David.
Some people have complaints about this scene. It was like a Toy Story 4 type of scenario where he abandoned his friends, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. And I disagree. I mean, I like the idea of some people were saying that you had Tony becoming a selfish character to a selfless character. And then you have Captain America becoming a selfless character to not becoming a selfish character, but doing a selfish act in order to make himself happy.
Well, it's like, again, it's interesting you brought up Toy Story 4, right? Because in essence, Woody and Steve do the same act in the end. It's like they do something for themselves for once. You know, they for their own personal health and well-being, you know? After giving so much of themselves to everybody else, like, that's why at a certain point you gotta, like, you know, do something for you. You know? Yeah, there are a lot of silly complaints that I don't, quite frankly, take seriously. Again, oh, God, this... Oh, boy.
I like that he didn't know.
What?
Like...
Sam?
Yeah. Well, like the actor. Like at first.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Right. So the, what's his name? Anthony Mackie didn't know that he was going to be handed the shield. I mean, what an emotional moment. I remember hearing people behind me in certain screenings just like gasp, like, no way. Like, not in a negative way, but like, whoa. Like, you know, passing of the mantle. And it is Sam Wilson who best embodies the idea of what a Captain America should be. I think the rationale, and Bucky agreed to that. It's not as if Bucky wasn't in the loop about what Steve was going to do. Bucky agreed that it should be Sam, in large part because Bucky, you know, through no fault of his own, but he unfortunately was manipulated into doing horrible, heinous acts that the world just won't forgive, for better or for worse. You guys there?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I was just...
It's a good scene. I love his reaction. Like, he's trying to take it all in.
Hold back tears. Yeah,
kind of wants to...
And the score. And the ring.
I don't get why that's funny. Like, people kept laughing at my theater.
Because it's like, you don't expect that. It's just like, and like him smiling, like, no.
It's an old man thing.
Yeah.
Old people do that. They fuck with you a lot.
Also, I mean, it's not a complaint. It's just kind of like, I wish they would have ended it this way, but with all the superheroes together, like the last shot, I think it would have been cool that you see all the superheroes together, kind of like either getting ready for the next mission or just kind of like.
Oh, you mean this being the last scene of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I get. It's not a complaint, really. It's just kind of like, oh, that would have been so.
Look at how happy she is.
Yes.
Look, she's crying, tears of joy. Like, just think about how long that this was something that we just dreamed but never thought possible. It's just, God, I'm sorry. This is the best way you should have ended this movie. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like, and also, this was the very first thing that was decided in this movie. More than anything else, like, they knew that the ending of Captain America was going to be this. Like, from the earliest, like, inception of what this was going to be, that ending was set in stone from day one. And, you know, I think it's just, you know, beautiful to end the movie on just that. Like, yeah, that's the end of the story. And it's, oh my God. But I mean, then again, you do have, I mean, the curtain call, David, I mean, that you're about to see of all of the damn actors that were in this movie, I think does, to me anyway, adequately service what you would have liked for them to have ended the movie originally on, because they kind of do that. I mean, you know, it does serve that same purpose, and I think maybe in a better way, to have a curtain call. And this was an idea by Kevin Feige to do that specifically. On that note,
well, I got the idea from Justice League Unlimited, which is a animated show on Cartoon Network, and that show ended with them, like, you know, they stopped the bad guy, they stopped Darkseid, and they realized that they had some of the villains that they fought before got out of jail and all that, so now they have to go and pick them up. And like, you see all the superheroes that you see in the show like running down these stairs, and like play like the Justice League theme. And at the end of it, you see Superman, Wonder Woman flying away, and the last shot is Batman, and like it's getting a close up of his bat symbol on his chest. It's a really great scene in the show, and that's kind of like what I thought. I just like it that way because it's an ending to a story, but also makes you feel like the beginning of a new one, and that's kind of like how I wanted it on this movie specifically. Right. Also, this is, I don't know if you like want to try to listen to it, but you know how I said that this music right here, it kind of reminds me of like E.T.
Does it?
Yeah.
What part? This part right here?
Yeah, this part really. I mean, it kind of like repeats itself a little while, but I don't know. It's just like that was just the first thing that I thought when I first watched it. It was kind of like, this kind of sounds like E.T.
Okay. Yeah. There's just something. I know that there'll be more Marvel movies of which we're gonna see, of course, but it's like, I don't know. It's like I was just so unbelievably satisfied with this. Like, it is the end of the story. For, I mean, at least for like the characters that I know and love, it is. And I recall walking out of the theater, and like, as often, you know, happens in the theater, you know, you have shared communal experiences with complete strangers. And we waited until the very end of the movie, and as we were walking out, this guy said to me, oh, I guess there's no more post-credit scenes. And he was like, well, this is what he said, right? And yeah, it makes sense, because like, that's the end, it's over. And like, there's just something really special about, you know, the movie, what it represents, the moment that it, you know, inspired. It was a pretty big time, and it's crazy to think that that was a year ago.
No. Yeah.
Guys, closing thoughts on the film.
I love it. And what I hope for like the next Marvel movies, what Marvel does next really is just to kind of like just reset here, you know? Just establish what your characters are going through right now, how this whole thing affects them, and then focus later on about the next Avengers movie. You know?
Alexis?
How did I say it?
Wait, what?
Yeah. Closing thoughts.
I mean, I love this movie. It's great. I cry. It kind of makes me sad because, like, moving forward, I don't know. Like, this is the extent of my knowledge. So, which, like, I feel was part of, like, my fun, like, knowing who these characters are and, like, hopefully, like, seeing some of, like, their comic book things in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, moving forward, I mean, not that we can't, like, do research or anything, but, like, it's not the same.
So you're like, you're saying that you're not entirely sure about you being as excited about this next generation of Marvel movies.
Yeah. The only thing, I mean, I don't think it's gonna happen in this next part. I'm hoping it does, but, like, just bring X-Men. Oh, man. That to me would be, like, the best thing.
Well, I think that's their ace in the hole, basically, right? But I mean, I don't expect anything X-Men until like 2025. Mm-hmm. Like, I think we're at least a good 5 years away from that, and thanks to COVID-19, maybe even longer than that.
Yeah, I think Marvel should really like take their time in bringing in the X-Men.
I mean, yeah, like, I would like them to, because I know that, you know, if they really do think about, you know who? Fantastic Four. Yes. Mm-hmm. But no, like, X-Men has always been my favorite. Like, even, like, with the Spider-Man movies, like, the old ones, I loved X-Men more than I did Spider-Man. I mean, the first X-Men movie is my favorite superhero movie. So, like, even after Endgame, like, I think it's still, like, one of the best movies.
Wow.
Yeah, so I would be extremely happy if they bring in the X-Men.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. That one and X2 especially. Very, very good. And yeah, they're... my goodness. It's just... they did a lot of great things with those old X-Men movies. You just have to wonder, like, okay, but how is the MCU version of that going to look like?
Yeah.
And, like, they're at a point where, like, they're... Okay, but how do you even approach it? Because, like, the whole idea of X-Men they're, at least in those movies, is they were, you know, the next stage of human evolution. Do they just do the exact same thing here? Or, like, how do they introduce the X-Men into this? Like, I feel like that you want to take your time with that to do it right. Yeah. Because I can't honestly think of a clean way of introducing them. Like, some people thought that if they ever do a real multiverse, that would be one way of introducing it. Although I don't think that would be satisfactory to anybody.
Yeah.
If they did it that way.
So some people are speculating that Scarlet Witch might be the next big villain of the MCU.
Wanda?
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense just because, like, she's lost so many people in her lives. I mean, it would make sense for her to break, possibly. I don't like that idea. Right. I hope it doesn't happen, but it would make sense to her if she does do that. But what they can do if they went with that idea was kind of do the opposite of a comic that she was in, where I think she got the Infinity Stones or something, and she was like, no more mutants or something like that, and like wiped out all the mutants. So I think maybe they can do something like that with her. Maybe not as a villain, maybe as a hero, but she somehow causes the mutants too.
Well, I think to me that there's a lot of things. I mean, I'm not really inspired by much of anything going on in the next, like, of the movies that have, like, we know that are coming. The two that I really care about are Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Thor Love and Thunder. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm looking forward to others in different aspects, but besides, those are the two ones that I'm really, like, I'm all in for, you know? High hopes for, you know, Multiverse of Madness, Eternals, and other things, but what I think they really need to take time to really figure out who Captain Marvel is, though.
Yeah.
Like, I just think from a character perspective, the movie didn't... I don't think the film was satisfactory like a lot of their other origin stories, in like you getting a sense of who she is and what she can do, you know? And I think they need to really figure out what that's going to be. I think they already announced that the directors that did the first Captain Marvel movie are not going to come back. So hopefully that's a sign that they recognize they got to do work on that. Because I mean, the movie did make $1 billion, and yet you're still making a creative shakeup with the future of that character. Unlike Black Panther, which is going to see the return of Ryan Coogler. So yeah, I mean, and almost, I mean, you do hope for the best, but like this movie that we just did right now ended it off so well, it almost doesn't even matter to me.
Yeah.
Because the conclusion is what really matters, and like, for however great this was, I mean, we should appreciate that we have a button if we wanted to jump off, because unfortunately that's not what happened with Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Like it was almost like the anti-Endgame. It's like how not to end a franchise.
Yeah. And like for other people who say like, oh, you know what, I'm no longer interested in the MCU, that's fine. I don't think that the MCU is gonna die off if you don't care about them anymore. Like it's gonna make $1 billion either way, with or without you. It's just
you just hope for better movies, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, like they just gotta make the movies
hope
good.
That they take more chances and they wouldn't just make the same movie again and again and again. That's just what I want.
Yeah.
I want some inspired choices to direct these films, and more of a risk and everything. Not so much the same.
And that's why I say, like, for the MCU, like, just make this like a clean slate. Establish your characters, your new characters at least, and kind of help and kind of take your time to take the next steps. Try to get, again, nobody's interested. A lot of people aren't interested in the MCU anymore. Focus on new ones.
Real quick for those listening still, that last bit of music we just got was Alan Silvestri's orchestral version of Make Way for Tomorrow Today, which was a song that was written by Richard Sherman for Iron Man 2. So a little bit more information there about that. But that brings us to the end of a 3-hour long movie and audio commentary. Thank you all for listening. The next one that the three of us are going to do is Star Wars The Last Jedi. So, yeah. Stay tuned for all that and more. And of course, we have also a lot of audio commentaries going up on the Fantasy Fair, like we mentioned previously with Frozen 2, and many, many more. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, David, for being here. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you all next time. Bye-bye, and stay in your damn homes.
Bye.